infinite ammo.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Infinite Ammo Syndicate podcast, episode 26. I am going to be hosting this one. I am one of the co-hosts, Captain Chaos. With me, as always, I have Renegade Operative, the main host.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Hope you're having a good night.
Awesome. And my other co-host here, Plow Devil Dom.
Hey, I'm actually doing something instead of beating around the bush and doing whatever it is that I do on a regular day-to-day basis, which is content on at least, this, not everything else that I do, but I'm here.
Awesome. Always good to have you. And we got Duff King 56.
Hey, how's it going? I'm new to this whole thing, so bear with me, please.
That's all right, man. There's a first time for everything. Next up, we have Italian Stallion 330.
That's me. Still one of the very few people in the world happy with the Raiden choice in Injustice 2.
All right. Next up, we got TJ, the rightful king. I think.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Pleasure to be here for the first time as well.
Good to have you, man. And last but not least, we have N7 Biscuit.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm also new to this, so fair warning.
No problem, man. It's fine. I hope you enjoy it. Alrighty, so I think that's pretty much everything. With all that being said, I guess we should go ahead and get into this document here. There is, as always, a list of topics we can cover. We can pretty much go at this in any order. So I guess since I'm the host, I'll go ahead and go first. I have not read over this document beforehand, so I guess I'm just gonna kind of be picking something at random here. I actually, you know what? We might as well just start with the first one because that's I feel like that's probably the most relevant. Number one, DICE temporarily turns off in-game purchases after the massive backlash of their integration in Star Wars Battlefront 2. There's some bullet points here. EA buys Titanfall developer Respawn Entertainment. EA liquidates Dead Space developer Visceral Games. We knew that happened a few weeks ago, I think. Need for Speed Payback debuts with very polarizing reviews. But I guess the topic everyone would want to get to is Battlefront 2. There's a lot to be said about that one.
Yeah, so
EA is fucking up really, really bad.
They're trying to do damage control, but it ain't working. Because they already lost my purchase on Battlefront 2 forever ago. I played the beta, and I was like, oh, this is fun. And loot boxes. And fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. No, stop.
No.
God, why does every game ever need to have these now? Same with Payback. I think they're in Payback. Unbelievable.
Well, how can I put it, like, before somebody else reacts? It's almost like, well, Overwatch did it and got away with it. Let's see if we can too.
True.
But the difference between them is, like, Overwatch, how can I put it? Everything is, like, multiplayer and XP based in Overwatch instead of just, oh, hey, pay money for this. They just make it more appealing with their events. Like, oh, hey, it's Christmas. Get this skin from this loot box. Well, how can I get a loot box? Well, you can either do the grinding for it or you can pay for it. In other places, it's like, well, you could grind for it for like 18 years or pay like $25 extra to be like, my bad, to get like one chance of getting this, maybe, if you think you're lucky. And that just seems like really wrong as opposed to being optional. It's more like forced.
I really don't like the whole you have to grind for like, what was it? They say you have to grind for like hundreds of hours, and to get certain characters, if you want to pay for the entire set, you have to pay like something around $2,000, I believe.
It was $2,100, I believe, in that ballpark.
That is ridiculous.
Wait, is this for loot boxes you're paying for?
No, that's for like all the content in the game if you want access to it.
So
Sweet
so
Jesus.
you're paying anywhere from the base game is 60. There was I believe an $80 edition as well. So anywhere from 60 to 80 for the game. And then on top of that, another 2100. Like for 2100, you can get several other games and
can get
be
several
much
consoles.
satisfied, It's
All right,
like,
I found
yeah.
You could build a beast gaming computer with that money.
Fuck yes.
Yeah,
There's
but
a time estimate, to get
yeah, you
everything. But go ahead.
So I'm not entirely clear because I do know about like the whole hero thing and how you had to pay apparently fuck tons of money to buy I think it was like what was it like $80 or something for
I think it was
for
80
some,
hours, maybe.
or 80 hours. Okay.
You had to get.
Yeah, it sounds like a
bigger
grind,
loot.
like a huge grind in order to get like these to unlock some of these things. It just sounds like they really want you to spend a lot of time in this game. And I mean, I don't know, there needs to be a really good reason to get real invested other than just grinding for characters. It just sounds like I don't know. I mean, I don't like the business practices that they're doing with the Battlefront 2. That's why I've just been driven away from even considering purchasing the second game. Not to mention the first game really just didn't impress me that much.
I had my fun with the first game. It was all right.
Yeah.
I preferred the heroes versus villains mode, and I was a scary Luke Skywalker.
I think the problem with it all. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna interject really quick and just say that with all this kind of blowing up and everyone talking about it, there was two things that came out of this afterward. I know people were talking about it earlier today in the main call. I did not get a chance to get the sources for it though, so that's something I'm gonna have to find later. But one of the things that was confirmed was that Disney stepped in and told them to step away from doing the loot boxes, which is why they got pulled for a short amount of time. But also one other thing too is that both EA and Blizzard are under investigation for unlicensed gambling due to the loot boxes.
Yeah, I believe it was a couple foreign governments that are looking into the
Belgium,
practice
the
of
UK.
loot boxes. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe this will finally get people to stop doing it. And
Yeah.
AAA $60 games. I mean, if it's a free-to-play game, all right, I get it. That's how they make money. But when I'm already paying you $60 for a decent-sized game, and you're nickel and diming me for that shit, I'm like, what? No.
Yeah, apparently the mobile market is mostly to blame for this system of microtransactions that we have in a lot of these AAA games now.
I would still suggest not buying the game because I saw that in their official statement they said they were turning off microtransactions temporarily, which means that they probably can cut them on at any point in time and still fuck over people. So it just screams like, hey, we're listening to you guys, surely, but we can cut this back on and fuck over the gamer anytime. So I really don't trust it at all.
You also have to think that the only reason they're listening is because of the backlash. If it weren't for that, I don't think they would be doing any of this.
No, if the game sold, if it broke bread, I don't think they would care.
Oh no,
no way.
No, Disney wouldn't give two fucks. I mean, it's the only reason Disney stepped in is because it's hurting their business.
Yeah,
exactly.
That comment on Reddit says, what the hell? How many dislikes is it at now?
Is that like 600K?
Where was it? Was it on the Battlefront? Or the DICE?
It was on Reddit, I believe. Yeah, but
here we go. I got it.
With Disney stepping into, apparently, from at least what I heard the guys talking about, apparently they were actually trying to step in before the game was even coming out, and trying to tell them to stop the loot boxes.
That's really interesting. I think the Disney element is really interesting personally because they've been doing twice already, with two controversies before the release of like one of their biggest titles that are going to come out this year under their name. So they had the blacklisting the critics not long ago that were giving what Disney thought were unfair reviews to some of their movies. But then they also had the controversy with them sort of chokeholding the theaters that are showing the new Star Wars movie, and that they are demanding a bigger cut from the theaters if they're going to show their movies. So like another large PR backlash against EA, which affects Disney right before the release of their grand title. I think that's a huge deal for them. So
that's a good point.
That
could also very much be the reason too. I didn't think about it that way.
Well, you also have to remember too that this is also partially Disney's fault, because they gave EA a 10-year contract to make Star Wars games. So that unless if Disney decides to pull that contract, EA basically has 10 years worth of Star Wars games that they can make.
They're probably not going to, because of the whole legality now with them going forward with this idea. They probably already signed the contracts anyway, so I doubt they would try to refunnel their money unless they really started fucking up and pursued this more with the microtransactions. Then I think there would be a problem, and Disney will step in and say, hey, that's cool. But until then, it's like they've been involved in shady practices themselves, so it's kind of hard to really gauge where this will go. I know they're trying to make loot boxes illegal in countries like Belgium now, so it's going to be interesting how this whole debate process turns out.
Wait, I've got a question about that before we you know why they're trying to restrict them in different countries and, like, I guess the U.S.?
No, I don't actually.
All right, because I'd heard a thing when I started like back on Escape the past couple weeks. A friend of mine was like, "Yeah, apparently there's some kind of business going on with like Venezuelan gold farmers." So I don't know what's going on with the nation itself, but apparently like they get on these games and farm money and just kind of like inflate the U.S. dollar over there or something like that and get X amount of money in their currency. So maybe it's somewhat related, I guess, in other countries. I'm not exactly.
Honestly,
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit separate from the whole gambling issue, because the issue with the Venezuelan gold farming and RuneScape was that the Venezuelan, I don't know if it's the economy crashing or the fact that their country was going through a lot of political strife at the time where it tanked their dollar, so that the rate of returns on certain amounts of RuneScape gold was actually higher than the conversion rate from their dollar. So I think that's a little bit separate. I think it's mostly just when it comes to something like gambling, if the government can slap title of gambling onto a certain action, they're going to want to get their hands on it in some way or another. So I think that's mostly why they're trying to investigate. I think they might seem like the good guy at this point, but at the end of the day, they're going to get their hands in on it anyways, so it doesn't really matter.
I agree
like the way I
with
thought
that.
about it was there could be backlash from parents talking about, well, my kid's gambling, and they have this video game, you know, just rada stuff that gives them more bad press, or just other socioeconomic things that be at play that we don't really know about. So
to me, this should have stopped when CS:GO was exposed for that. Really, there's no excuse.
I remember that.
There's no excuse for that.
On the subject of gambling, I think, you know, they could easily take a page from like Japan, where gambling is illegal, and the only way you could legally gamble is if you go to like patchy slot parlors and arcades and whatnot, where they're just, it's not a legit form of gambling according to their form of law, but it's not gambling, if that makes sense. Like, it's still gambling, just in another form, but it's not as bad as like, oh, well, you know, you have to pay X amount of dollars just to get the chance of winning a skin that you probably don't even like, you know, like, or et cetera, or game advantages and stuff like that. Because that stuff is, it's bad. I mean, it not only does it kill the incentive of trying to earn skill and learn how to play a game, it just, you know, it just kind of sets a precedent for pay to win. And nobody who actually likes playing games for fun wants to deal with other players who just want to pay to win.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm just
absolutely.
Did Ren? I think I did already do that.
You sure?
Yeah,
I think I did.
Okay.
So I think that being said, we should probably move on to to the next
Hold on,
question
one
if
more
somebody
thing
wants
about
to.
EA Star Wars. If they ever do a sequel to Republic Commando and put microtransactions in it, no, I'm gonna throttle somebody. I swear to God.
You mind if I take the next question, Chaos?
Yeah, sure.
I actually want to take number 10 because a lot of people have been asking me about this both publicly and privately. And this is on the PlayStation Experience 2017 rumors that have surfaced on Reddit. A leaker who has been factually known about, or has some factual things behind him, and has some sort of credit to leaking Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles in Injustice 2. What do you all think about the rumors? And the rumors go as follows: like Devil May Cry 5 with Dante, Virgil, and Nero as leads, Soul Calibur 6 for multiple multi-platform consoles, Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil 2 remake with a quote-unquote third-person camera shift.
Cool.
Supposedly Nintendo releasing a new Animal Crossing, and Street Fighter V's Season 3 character DLC. And I want to get to this in particular because, like I said, a lot of people came to me and wanted to know my my particular opinion on it. And specifically, mostly on the Resident Evil 2 and Devil May Cry thing. First of all, motherfuckers keep hyping up Devil May Cry 5 like it's gonna fucking happen. If it happens, hey, cool. You know, I'm not saying no to it. You know, if it looks hype, if it looks like Capcom's actually gonna put effort into this fucking game, cool. Not gonna complain about that. But I'm not gonna, you know, go over on Twitter like a lot of these motherfuckers and start bitching about how, oh, Capcom didn't bring a game that they never said they were actually making to begin with. And as far as Resident Evil 2 Remake is concerned, if I've said it before and I'll fucking say it again, I mean, if it doesn't play like Resident Evil 7, I don't care what it plays like. You know, this is not a big loss to me if it doesn't play like the original Resident Evil 2. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. It's not going to, you know, it's like, it's not saying that it's going to be over-the-shoulder Resident Evil game. It does not mean that it's going to be a bad game per se. We need to see actual gameplay. We need to see what stories in the game that, what parts of the story has been changed and what's remaining the same, things of that nature. What is Capcom doing with that project, as opposed to being like, well, there's a camera shift, therefore it's bad. You know, it's like that's dumb. But oh, go ahead.
To be honest, I tried to play the original, like, you know, the Resident Evil 1 remake. I can't control that. I'm sorry. I didn't grow up with a control scheme like that. I don't really like it. If they did the third-person camera in the Resident Evil 2 remake, I'm all there. Good. Then I'll actually play it.
I said this before. I don't mind them changing the camera around as long as they keep the core gameplay mechanics of the second one while putting in added content that they had from Resident Evil Remake with the, you know, emergency dodge that you could do with the knife. If they kept all those items in there, if they made it expanded upon, I would not mind them having the camera shift, because a lot of people, I understand they don't like taking controls, but at the same time, I was talking about this on Twitter. It's like, if they did make it over the shoulder and interesting, I would still be down to buy the game, because at the end of the day, it's a remake. So they're going to change some things to fit the modern era of video games in general. It's not going to be exactly shot for shot the same game that you played in 1998. So I think what people are forgetting is that these are rumors and they're getting overhyped. The DMC stuff is getting annoying because a lot of people are saying, oh, if they don't show DMC 5 at this event, then we riot on Twitter. And that's not really helping your case. That's not really proving anything. Yeah, it's like, it's totally ridiculous. If Capcom delivers it, cool. If they don't, then there's no reason to wig out.
I mean, I know, Ren, you could attest to this because we've talked a lot about this on prior to this podcast.
Yeah.
The number of times where people just get upset where one of these two games do not show up, specifically on the Capcom front. We didn't even get to the other games on this rumors list, but you know, how many times they get upset with Resident Evil 2 Remake, I can slightly understand because they actually announced that game 2 years ago, whereas Devil May Cry 5, they haven't said shit about it. It's like you can't be upset about a game that you don't even know if it exists or not. But and even going back to like the remake too, like you said, if they can make it to where they make the changes, and it plays well and it's justifiable, then fine, cool, And who's to say that, hey, if there's a demand for it, maybe they'll even patch in a option to go back to a classic camera angle mode, or maybe it might even be an option right from the get-go.
That's what I was going to say, is that if there was an option to change between the fixed camera angles and the more like Revelation style over the shoulder.
Yeah, because I mean, like, you can't just be like, well, the game sucks just because it plays a certain way. If there's enough demand for it, I'm sure they would actually go out of their way to do it. I mean, this is one of the franchises that Capcom actually focuses on too much. So
shit about.
Yeah. So
let's be real. If God Hand 2 was ever announced, oh my god, I'm buying that. Like, I don't even care. I'm buying that day one.
Right. But that all on the side, how do you all feel about like the Street Fighter V Season 3 stuff, Soul Calibur 6, and then the Nintendo rumor that was also stacked on top of the other two?
Let me do mine real quick because I had to answer the door. But number one, Street Fighter V, I don't care about it, so get that up out of here. Soul Calibur 6, it's interesting if it turns out to be true. I would prefer if they did Soul Calibur 6 because, it's a series that needs to come back, especially in the climate where Tekken 7 is doing so successful. And then for the last one, Animal Crossing, I have no idea about it. I'm sure fans of Nintendo games will really like it, but for me, it's not really clicking to me, in my opinion. So I'm going to go answer the door. You guys continue.
Gotcha. As far as Street Fighter 5 stuff goes, I want to say it kind of died upon release because they were trying to ship everything with like DLC, which became like more of a meme on itself in the end of 2016, rather than have like the arcade here and X character there but Y character here. It was sort of inconsistent with what I was expecting and what other people wanted. So when they were announcing like, well, this DLC character, that DLC character, season 1, 2, 3, whatever, everything coming on little increments like that, people were kind of being pissed, like, oh well, we can get these characters, why can't we get this game mode? We can get this feature, how come we can't get this character, whatever? And it just seemed like a lot of dissonance from that community. Don't exactly know. I can't exactly put it in words because I played a little bit of it, but I didn't really care to get invested in it. It's not really a full game. You guys are paying full game money plus DLC and hyping it for me, and that ruins games. At least in my opinion. You want to buy a game full price day one, but it's not even like fully compatible or it's not fully released, and then you want to complain about it day two. It's kind of sad but kind of funny, but that's just my opinion.
I'm in the same boat, essentially, with Street Fighter V. I did play it for a little bit. I only really bought it to play as Nash and Guile. Those are like the two people I play as in Street Fighter, plus a little bit of Fei Long, but I don't think I'll see him ever again. So the thing that really pissed me off was like, what the fuck? Where's arcade mode? What is it? I don't want to get my shit kicked in by someone online, okay?
At least not like immediately. Right.
Yeah. I want to learn how to play the game. I mean, damn.
Right.
I want to whoop M. Bison's ass. That's always fun.
Because if I remember right, the last game I played was a little bit of Third Strike and maybe some of 4 Arcade Edition at parties, friends when I started college. And I was here like, oh, well, 5's coming out. Maybe I'll get a chance to learn the mechanics or whatever again. Maybe they implemented the story stuff. Turns out there's no story, and it's just like Pretty Boy Ken, hobo-looking Ryu. And I'm here like, all right.
Story mode an absolute joke or something?
I didn't hear much about it because when they released it, I was like, oh, here comes this fuck shit right here. It's like 2017, man. This game's been out for like a year or two. Y'all got to get back together.
Meanwhile,
reconvene and like class.
Injustice 2's over there like, y'all don't have a story mode? Alright then.
Let me slide up in them DMs real quick and get y'all business right quick. But,
yo, hold on. We got the Ninja Turtles. We hooked them up.
Little nod, the winkle and all that jazz. But as Ren was saying, Soul Calibur 6, if it's a thing, in a climate where Tekken 7 is doing well, a lot of, I want to say old head people, like 90s, 80s kids, were here like, well, I remember playing that game when I was little, Street Fighter 2, Tekken 3, and all this other jazz. I'm one of them. Why not? Yeah, they saw another Soul Calibur, because I've been kind of like creeping myself over Soul Calibur 2. Like, man, I miss this game so much. The mechanics are so stupid, but I missed it a lot. Early 2000s technology.
Who's going to be the guest character in Soul Calibur 4? Voldemort? That'd be hilarious.
That would be hilarious. Like, yeah, guest characters way back in the day, like freaking, I don't know, Mokujin from Tekken, little wood dude. But they already have Charade. Just, I guess.
Just throw it out there. You could. Oh,
I don't know what they can do wrong with it because it's Soul Calibur. They put freaking Noctis in Tekken.
Yeah, see, I know a lot of people were talking about how not necessarily Noctis being a bad character to have in a fighting game, but him just feeling more like he'd fit right in Soul Calibur more so than Tekken.
Yeah.
That is precisely what I said.
And
I wasn't pissed. I understand where they're coming.
Of all the Final Fantasy characters, why Noctis? I mean, okay, but over someone like, say, Sephiroth or Cloud or that one guy from 10 that I can never remember his name.
The only reason I can figure is
that one guy. I think it was the laughing dude.
Oh, okay, yeah, him too.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, like the only reason I can figure is just because Final Fantasy 15 is just a more recent game. So
right.
I don't know.
But that sounds like a more Soul Calibur-y pick than Tekken.
I swear I saw Lightning in that promo too. I hope they don't fucking put Lightning in there.
Please don't. They don't, because they really oversold their 3 games by herself and Dead City and whatnot. It was really good on its own, but they're like, oh, 13.2 might be better. Oh, 13.3 Electric Boogaloo, and I'm here like, all right,
y'all. I'm pretty sure Lightning.
DLC in there.
I'm pretty sure Lightning is in Dissidia, not the Tekken DLC. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as Tekken is concerned, I think they're well, somebody said it in the main group call, but it was they're probably going to be taking a character from like each franchise as the guest character.
Oh.
And then if I remember right, something about like legacy characters is going to be like free updates.
Well, that's a good thing at least.
So yeah,
weird. Who would be legacy for Tekken? That's not already in there.
Characters like I think like I heard people saying like June. They'd really like to see her
or Lei Wulong. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I have Tekken. I barely play it because I'm ass at that.
Hey.
But I got Martial Law. I have him looking like Kenshiro. It's awesome. And Ghost Rider. I think I have him looking as Ghost Rider too.
Oh, so that is good that we inadvertently answered question 15 about Noctis being in Final Fantasy 15. So that is great. I thought it was a weird announcement, but it's like, whatever. I'm just looking forward to Geese Howard. I think he's going to be an awesome character to play with.
That's predictable.
Yeah, predictable. Yeah, good one. Good one, buddy.
All right. So I think we should probably move on. Somebody want to take the next question? I don't know if you guys mind if I take one.
Go ahead.
Over here. So number 9, the Xbox One X debuts with just 1,344 units sold in Japan. Do you think Microsoft should just give up with the Japanese market or keep trying? Also, something I would like to add on to that question, which I don't think we actually have a question on in this document, but what do you guys think of the One X's launch and how it's been so far?
I'll be honest, I don't even know the damn thing launched already.
I
don't know why.
It's been that bad.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I keep seeing the Taco Bell commercials.
Okay, but... did anyone see the broken launch consoles where you power it on and it doesn't work? It shuts back off after like 15 seconds. I think that's pretty bad. Once again, I don't know why people got overhyped over this launch, considering the fact that console launches sometimes just don't go well, and this is a prime example. I also think that they should really just stop trying to cater to Japan. Japan does not care about the Xbox. This is like dead low.
The problem with
Nintendo and Sony. I mean, come on.
Yeah, the problem with the Xbox in Japan is that, I mean, first of all, Microsoft is an American company, and they just don't have anything on their console that caters to Japanese people. They're more interested in stuff like Monster Hunter and stuff like that. They're not really playing fucking Jesus
Gun
Christ, what?
gun
like-
shoot man
like-
game and
Yeah.
like cars.
This
If you don't mind me interjecting here, really quick.
Crackdown, the new Crackdown. They're really hyped for Crackdown over in Japan.
Right, if you don't mind me interjecting here, like, and just kind of going off of that point, like, a majority of the Japanese audience is not going to be looking forward to Halo, Crackdown, or Titanfall 2, like even that, like, they're not going to be looking forward to games like that. What they're going to be looking for, and this is going to be a variety of different things. They're going to be looking for JRPGs. Is going to be like the number one thing they're going to look for, right? If you don't have JRPGs on your console, they don't care. It's plain and simple. Another thing that sells really big in Japan, dating sims. Those anime dating sims. Yeah, believe it or not, those
Oh man,
sell
those are the
very well in
best Steam
Japan.
reviews.
Summer Lesson is the game of the year.
You laugh, but no, it's
It's
actually
true.
No,
Like,
I know
it's
it's
very
true.
true.
That's
Yeah,
why it's
yeah.
funny.
Yeah. So they're not like, but as far as like a serious answer is concerned, if your console does not have a JRPGs on there, they don't care. Like, it's just not gonna be like action shooters is really a big niche over there. It's just not something like, especially if they're like first person shooters, it's not gonna really appeal to them. Hell, I think even MOBAs appeal more to them than an action shooter. So it's like, take that for what you will. But anything that's like JRPG, like, they will play, and that will be their deciding factor, because that's like the big thing that sells in that region. Should Microsoft give up on Japan? No, I think what they should really do is rethink their marketing strategy. And I also think they need to get in touch with Japanese development studios and Japanese publishers, so that way they can maybe have some JRPGs and stuff like that you can only get on the Xbox and not on the PlayStation. But their biggest problem is that because they wanted to move things to the Windows 10 store, well, what real exclusives does the Xbox have at this point?
And
Go
they
ahead.
need to not show cars at their goddamn shows.
I talked about
Show
this.
games. Good God.
It's a car show.
And talk about controllers and donuts and shit. Like, what?
I talked about this before, but I think them canceling stuff that would have catered to the Japanese market, like Scalebound, was a really bad decision. That would have been a great game to market to the Japanese. Another thing is they tried desperately with the Xbox 360 to try to put Japanese titles on that platform. So I think they're just not doing good enough in trying with advertising these Japanese games, with showing the same sense of support. Like Dom said, no one cares about COD in Japan. I don't know why they have fucking commercials and trailers of COD in Japan. Japanese man is gonna be like, I don't play this American garbage. Well, what is this first person shooter nonsense?
Like, they
to me.
like
Into
by
no
by comparison to, like, they'd be more willing to play like Uncharted 4 in comparison to the like, say, the latest COD game that just came out. They would want to play Uncharted 4 again, or just the latest Uncharted expansion, or The Last of Us 2, even anything from Naughty Dog, as opposed to whatever Activision is going to shit out with the next Call of Duty.
Yeah, and even with those games, they don't have the first party clout, so it's not even enough interest there, considering they don't have those studios to market those type of franchises. So I just think that if they're going to keep up this route, then the Xbox is going to sell like piss over there. That's what I think.
I mean, it isn't.
Well,
They already have like a lack of exclusive and variety, so it's like, why bother getting one?
I think, though, if they did really try, maybe, because I can't say that anything is not possible if they did really put in all that work that we described. At the same time, they're not, so at this point, it's not even a debate.
I think really the only thing that's worthwhile on that console is backwards compatibility. And that's sad that I have to say that, because backwards compatibility is not a selling point per se. It's an add-on feature, if anything.
Right.
Is it a bad feature? No, absolutely not. In fact, I think it should be mandatory, but at least for when it comes to games from previous gen and maybe one gen after. Yeah, I mean, like, the only reason to even have an Xbox is Xbox One, at least, is if you were, I don't know, say you wanted to talk about specific Xbox, original Xbox games and 360 games, and those games just so happen to be backwards compatible on the one. Well, of course, you're not going to want to, record that footage based off of the original hardware. You'd want to get it off the backwards compatible emulation because you can get better performance out of it. But for most people, spending from anywhere from $250 to 600, $250 on the Xbox One S and $600 on the X, like no one's gonna want to do that. like it's just ridiculous. No one is going to want to spend that much money for a few games that are backwards compatible on a console that's practically dead.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just not really any selling points for the console. That's the main problem of it. They can't really. I mean, there's barely any exclusives, and
you sure, Chaos? I mean, 4K assets.
Oh. Yeah, the 170 gigabyte games that are, because they have 4K assets, they're like fucking huge. Yeah, that's a huge selling point.
Titanfall 2 at 6K. Am I right?
Quantum Break,
Golly,
170 gigs.
My panties are already wet.
Hey, but hey, that's if you can turn your console on to play those games. I mean, you got to get through that first.
Man, this is depressing. I'm sorry.
Very depressing.
Like, this is getting sad to hear about.
I feel secondhand embarrassment for Microsoft, honestly. I mean, they've hyped this console up so bad, and this is the result. It's just pathetic.
Like I said, I had no idea the damn thing even launched.
Right, neither did I. I think it was all because of the whole PlayStation Neo thing being announced, and it's just like, oh, well, if we get ours out first, we're gonna get those potential buyers. Well, PS Neo doesn't have anything worth selling. Nobody's gonna buy that either.
I don't need one of those things.
If you don't need one, why?
I mean, just build a gaming PC. I mean, the only reason why people would even get a Pro is just because you have the exclusives perform better, but then in 4K, and if you have a 4K TV, but most people don't have that. So
just as somebody who's owned both a base PS4, which Ren has now, and a Pro, I can say going from a base PS4 to a Pro is not a bad jump per se, especially if you're worried about your console having any issues long term. I think the Pro is definitely a worthwhile investment because you don't need a 4K TV. And that's the thing.
You don't need it, but
Microsoft misworded their statements saying that if you don't have a 4K TV, then this isn't for you. But then it turns out you actually don't need a 4K TV to use it. But that put to the side, just having a Pro, you don't need the 4K TV. You could just use it as is, run games at 1080p. If they have Pro support, get better performance at potentially 60 FPS, locked 60 FPS with games like Neo, for example. Or if the game if the game doesn't have Pro support, there's also boost mode, which also helps the performance of the games, if just slightly, but it is there. It does help to some extent. So as opposed to paying $600 for one and needing a 4K TV, not necessarily needing a 4K TV, but just $600 for some of those improvements, both visually and performance wise.
Seems like a waste if it's not a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
So I think we should probably move on to next question if someone wants to take that.
Let me see here. I'll take one. Oh, okay. So number 5, pretty easy. Shadow of War's final act is only made available after hours of grinding or buying loot boxes to attain it earlier. who does Shadow of War again? I forgot. WB, right?
Yeah,
it was
Yep.
WB.
Yeah, this is terrible once again. I don't like the fact now that loot boxes. You see, people argue that if it's only cosmetics, it's fine. But now you have your whole entire ending locked behind some grinding, and it takes a week to get a certain orc in order to complete the main quest, which is very, very dumb. I think that if this becomes successful, what's going to happen is your game is going to be cut up into little tiny pieces, and you have to grind in order to really get the true ending. And I think Ashura's Wrath tried this before on the PS3, where Capcom was like, you know what, fam, we're going to take your fucking true ending and we're going to lock it behind a paywall. And people were really pissed about that. So it's the same sort of flashbacks here. I'm getting like fucking flashbacks over this. So they really should just cut it out. I know WB sucks just like EA, but EA is like the worst offender. At the same time, this is something that's really, really going to hurt games in the long run if people go out and support Shadow of War. And I think Shadow of War also sold on MPD, so go figure. I don't know why people went in and bought that game knowing that prior knowledge.
Yeah,
Because they support the company. I mean,
I don't think there's ever really a good reason to do this other than they just want money.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm thinking, because what you'll see is that a lot of people, if they're buying it, either they're casuals and they don't keep informed on subjects like this, or they're blissfully ignorant and just, go out and buy it anyway, knowing full well that they're getting fucked over.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to someone, I won't name names, that it said that they bought the game. I'm pretty sure they knew about it, but they try to justify it by saying, oh, but you can, if you grind for a long time or whatever, you can eventually get the ending. And I'm like,
Right.
but that's no excuse, honestly. I mean, just I don't think that's like. I would still have an issue with purchasing it just because I'd feel like I'd feel dirty afterwards. I feel like I'm supporting, these bad business practices and companies just, feeling like they can get away with it because the more people that buy it, the more they feel like they can just continue to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
I had the same argument with my roommate a few weeks ago. We were at Walmart, brother, and he asked about the same question. How do you feel about Shadow War? And I was like, it's fucking disgusting what they're trying to do. My roommate's like, no, you have to understand these people need to make money. I'm like, well,
They have plenty of money.
They're a
like they need to
corporation.
make a profit off the game, which
Yeah.
is fine. Like every
They're-
company wants to make a profit, but you can't sit here and tell me, hey, story element locked behind paywall is good. That's dumb. He's like, well, think about mobile games, and I was like, right. Are all mobile games like backed by huge corporations? No, they're not. They're usually by small time developers. They can even translate English shit right in some of these apps, and it's kind of funny. Like the app I'm running on my phone right now. If you want your hero to grow the stronger, put in the work, and I'm like, dude, that's not. They
Yeah,
don't really check a lot of these diagnostics, so you can't compare a full release game to a mobile app. That's kind of stupid. And he's like, well, it's people's money, and if you want to like tell them how to spend it, be my guest. No, I can't tell them how to spend it. I can tell them why they probably shouldn't consider doing that again. I'm not going to sit here and just crap on you for what you want to buy, because at the end of the day, it's your own choice, right?
Mm.
But it can still be, I don't know, you can still have better options for your choices. So, but the whole Shadow War thing seems really MMO-y. Like MMOs that I play, pay money for this, pay money for that. We even have microtransactions in like the new RuneScape with the other topics on board, but they give you this thing you can pay for and just definitely get. We don't really have an ending in MMO, but still, you pay money to keep it going or get more out of the story, so to speak, in terms of your items, gold and whatever you want. But a full release single player game with some PvP elements, making you pay money to see an ending. I mean, that's stupid.
pretty bad.
that's really garbage. I mean, some people can like it or not like it, but it's just really scummy if you ask me.
Is it just not enough anymore that we pay $60 for these games and now you have to pay for even more content that the game technically isn't even complete? You have to pay to have even more content for the game that is like locked away behind a paywall.
You know what's funny? I don't mind, in this sense, I do not mind expansions. I don't see why.
No.
If they want to... Go ahead.
I don't. I mean, I'm not saying I don't mind expansion. I'm talking about like stuff that should be in the game. Like we're talking about an ending
No.
should have been put in the game.
I was saying to follow up with the question that if these companies want more money, why not just make more expansions? That's totally fine, as opposed to saying we're gonna cut away your entire ending for DLC. Why not just make a follow up with DLC? Because DLC's been around for a long fucking time. Instead of just taking something away and making it grind worthy with this new model.
To add on to that too, like you can have the ending where it's like or rather, you could have that expansion DLC where it takes place sometime after the ending, and they acknowledge what happens, and it builds upon later on in the story, and gives you more character growth, whether it be a returning character that you're playing as, or explains certain story details that might not have been touched upon as well enough as they should have been in the main game.
Yeah, because when people like Phil Spencer say shit like, "Oh, single player games just doesn't sell anymore," it's retarded. Like, why would someone say that if they just don't make a follow up and make an expansion and make more money, instead of just saying we're gonna cut your fucking game out and not give it to you? I think that's more rational to do the DLC route than anything.
Single player games don't sell. Meanwhile, at Horizon Zero Dawn,
Neo, pick your poison.
Persona 5.
Yes.
Crash.
Speaking of expansions, like we don't really get. I don't know if you guys really noticed, but we don't really get games that have technically have expansions anymore. The last game I've seen that had an expansion was like The Witcher 3.
Horizon just had it just recently.
Dishonored.
Neo.
That's more like but it's mostly like DLC. I would say. I mean, expansion is kind of different in that it's like a whole. It in and of itself is like a little miniature game almost. I mean, I guess you could say that about the DLC, but it feels different.
I think you could say Uncharted Lost Legacy maybe. It's standalone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely that. But yeah, it's just we don't really get much of that anymore. It's mostly just DLC or microtransactions.
Yeah.
Well, to remark on that, it's like expansions can be packaged off as separate games now because people are gonna buy them. So why not? Looking at the Pokemon game that came out Friday, Ultra Sun and Moon, I think is what it is. I was asking my friends and everything, why should I buy this game? But we have new Z moves and new blah blah. I was like, why couldn't they just patch it in with the game? Because we did have Smash Bros, for example. They have amiibos to support. We download. Can't we just like run an expansion on this game instead of paying like full game price for a brand new game, quote unquote?
Yeah, in that instance, if I can piggyback off you real quick, in that instance, I don't see why they won't do something like that for Metal Gear Survive. It's totally an unneeded game as it stands now, and it could have easily been patched in for like a discounted price or as DLC.
Well, speaking of
like a PS2
speaking of Metal Gear Survive,
oh, it looks like shit. Believe me.
No, I mean that's one of the questions on here.
A game that looks like shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Might as well just talk about freaking.
Oh, this game. Well,
before we get to Metal Gear Survive, you don't mind me just adding a quick point here.
I didn't even know about this. Okay. I kind of want to take this question real quick.
I think someone else wanted to answer.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, please just let me. I think something that's really scary about the implementation of these loot boxes, and I think Ren hit this point really well early on, is that developers are testing the wall. I should more say publishers are forcing developers to test the waters now so they can set a precedent. Mm-hmm. So if this sort of stuff flies, if they're allowed to lock story content behind this paywall, these loot boxes, then this stuff is just going to go insane. I think the scariest part about this is that they're using games that take advantage of really big fandoms to do it. For example, this is Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is a very deep, established, rabid fan base that will eat this stuff up, and they're more willing to buy these bad business practices. Same with Star Wars. You have a ton of Star Wars fans that are willing to look past these pay-to-win loot boxes because it's a Star Wars game, and I think that's really scary, and I think these publishers and these developers should be taken to task because I think that's really dishonest. I think that it's insulting the fan bases and sort of denigrating them in a way.
Yeah.
Very
It
scary.
kind of is. It really is. Because I don't know how to put this in terms, but from Persona 5, like Power of the Mass, strong tool. That's just one of the core senior things I learned from that game. That's just how I see it. If you have a bunch of, you got a bunch of idiots going to buy one thing. Why question? Just let it happen. And nobody's going to like really bother. Win-win. Nobody complains. We get money. We're good. But the problem with the Star Wars Battlefront 2 we discussed earlier is that people did complain. You know, you got backlash. And they're sitting here like the whole, we understand you guys are trying to hear you out, but please like believe us when we're trying to say we're here for you. You know, you're there for their money. There's a big difference. They can see that now.
Mhm.
Like, what more should I say about that? They get it. Some people aren't all, like, some fandoms aren't all just complete, stupid, rude. It's good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think we should probably move on to next question. Kind of wanted to
I wanted to touch upon Survive.
yeah,
It's
let's
number 7.
go number 7. Metal Gear Survive has confirmed DRM. It will require an internet connection even when playing offline. That is
Why though?
I don't know. I mean, the game already in and of itself is cancer. I mean, just
Just
it
look at
having
the
DRM is just an even more of an insult to injury, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know. I mean, let's not even think about like who is even gonna buy this game. Like, who is this
Yeah, I was
game
gonna ask
targeted
that.
at
Yeah,
exactly?
it's got like fucking zombies in it. Why? Because that's the first thing I think of when I think of tactical espionage action, shooting zombies in the face. Nice,
COD did it.
Konami.
COD did it. Excuse me. I'm dying.
Not
just,
to mention they've
they
also
treat it as a
destroyed the
minigame.
Fox engine. Like, look at these textures.
Look
I
at what
don't-
I posted in the chat. That's what they've done with the Fox engine. It looks like a PlayStation 2 game.
What the fuck is that pumpkin head thing?
I don't know what the hell that is.
What is that supposed to be a dude I'm supposed to shoot in the face?
Is this a PS1 game? Look at that wall. What the fuck is going on?
Is that his hand or a hand like mounted on the wall already?
I have no clue. Like, this game looks extremely terrible, and I don't know why they're putting in DRM to make it online only. Like, no, like offline, and it doesn't work. I don't get what they're doing. I think the last time I saw the gameplay, it was a total reskinned map of MGS5 just with fog everywhere. So, I have no idea. I think they also delayed the game to 2018 as well to give it more polish. So
Polished like what, a spit shine?
yeah. So I don't know. It's like they're already shooting themselves in the foot with the PR. I think Kojima also shit on the game because there's transcripts out there, and now they're putting in DRM bullshit where you can't play the game offline. It's very disappointing to see Metal Gear go down this route, but to me, the final game ended with MGS5, in my opinion.
To go off of that too, like seeing what we saw with the game, it just looked like a basic survival game with nothing really too interesting. All they really did was reskin most of Metal Gear Solid 5 and just kind of update the iDroid map and stuff. It just looks a little bit cleaner, and that's about it. But all the textures in the game look pretty bare bones, bad, late PS2. Not like they put much effort into an engine that, looks great on Ground Zeroes and Phantom Pain, especially when it's like nighttime in that game and it rains a lot. But point being is that, just like they can't make a game right, look right. They can't make a game play right. And now they're adding in like always online, which the 5 people and their grandmother that buys this game, it's just like I don't think they're gonna have the time to be online all the time, unless if little Timmy is actually sitting in his basement 24/7.
I've never heard of this game. It's called Metal Gear.
Yeah,
it has zombies in it or something.
Like,
I'm gonna play the old games. Hopefully, get more zombies in it.
I only got a PS1 at my house,
and I don't
It's
know.
gonna be great.
I don't know
put the disc right in the PS1. See if it'll play.
I don't know if the 2018 release date, if that's supposed to be like some sort of like indication that they're trying to like get a one up on Kojima with Death Stranding, since that game is supposed to come out around 2019.
Oh yeah, because they think their game is gonna be.
It'll outsell Death Stranding, all right.
yeah. I don't know if that's what they're trying to do, because Kojima did say that around 2019 or 2020 is when Death Stranding would be the rough estimate of when we would see a release date for that game.
Konami must be retarded. They think they're gonna one up Kojima.
Yeah, like if that's what they're trying to do, it's clearly not working.
Yeah, it's not going to work at all. Because didn't people get pissy when they didn't like announce Kojima at the Video Game Awards that year when they pretty much let him go?
Yes,
they're like, yeah, where's Kojima? And he's like, well, he wasn't able to make it.
They pretty much held him hostage.
Assholes.
Yeah, pretty much that.
I think he wasn't allowed to say something about it either. But he did kind of get some kind of fan presence or whatever. I can't remember the exact story.
He wasn't allowed to be there at all, according to Geoff Keighley, because of fucking Konami negotiations.
Yeah, it said he was reportedly barred from attending, and it was accepted by Sutherland. Kiefer Sutherland, the guy who played Big Boss in MGS5.
Yeah, and then the year afterward, they gave him his reward.
Yep. And then Geoff Keighley wanted to fuck him because he gave a 20-minute speech about how great Kojima was. So there you go.
Man of the Year 2017.
10.
What do you guys think would have been worse for Konami in this situation? Do you think running the game into the ground and pretty much squeezing every single sale out of it as possible, like turning the game into patchy slots, which is what they're doing? They've got this iteration, this Survive coming out, or do you think it would have been worse for them to try an actual, maybe not a sequel to a Metal Gear title, but another legitimate Metal Gear title where they were trying without Kojima? Because I feel like them trying a legitimate title with the Metal Gear title on it without Kojima, and it would be a lot worse for them.
It would
PR-wise.
Yeah,
I agree.
The real fans of the original series would pick up on and be like, hey, this is the same vibe with the same what I got to know, basically. And they kind of shit on the franchise. Oh, this is what we are used to, so when are we going to get what we're used to?
For me personally, I think it would really vary, because if they were to get Platinum Games on board to do a sequel for Rising, and just let them handle the story for it, then maybe. But if it's just like how you guys were saying it, where it's just them just trying to do their own thing and it's just directly from Konami, I don't think so. I think that game would definitely be trash at that point.
Yeah, Dom pretty much took my answer. Like, I was going to play devil's advocate. It depends on the quality of the type of Metal Gear game they're making. If they actually bucked the fuck up and made a good one, then I would totally be on board with it. But at this point, it seems like they are trying to bastardize the series, and it's not really something that I'm looking forward to. They're definitely running it into the ground with a Metal Gear game that has zombies in it, and every game out there that you could think of has zombies. That is overrated, so go figure.
It seems almost like when COD brought like jump packs and shit into their game, like how Halo is. I was like, all right,
Future Wars.
This is kind of taking it too far. I know COD games are cool and all that, but this is going a little bit too far.
I played Black Ops 3 for a bit. It was fun. It was all right.
Right.
But Modern Warfare 2 is
you weren't going to replace that feeling. You were never going to.
Oh my god.
That. Like, that's what I was telling my friend. He's like, you just like that boots on the ground bullshit. I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah, real fucking life, dumbass.
It's a modern war simulator.
Yeah,
No, wouldn't you rather be in a spaceship?
I'm not a fan of space COD, to be honest. No,
for one whole level, right?
I was a fan of Cold War COD, and then they fucked it up with Black Ops 2.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that was future Cold War.
I don't know what
with my son.
The hell was going on with that. But didn't it have like a bunch of different pathways and shit and different
yeah, and they were really obscure to find too. Like, end of the level, you didn't punch Harper in the face. That means you get the shit ending. I'm like,
Oh, remember the guy you were supposed to assassinate? Turns out it was Mason. Way to go, dumbass.
And I was like, wait, so my dad's dead? You shot him in the dick and he died. Good job.
Yeah.
I
That's how many-
accidentally
that's how many
shot
years.
him in the leg anyway because I was like, "Oops, I missed."
Yeah, but yeah.
But it's
Jokes aside, yeah. I mean, like, could you imagine if Konami tried to do some shit like that? Like, I mean, I know Metal Gear is supposed to be like balls to the wall insane sometimes, especially like if we're talking Rising. But like,
Or Twin
I think
Snakes.
I think Konami would just really take it to a point where it doesn't. It's not Metal Gear, you know. Like they would make it feel like it's, I don't know, like Transformers or some shit like that. I don't know.
No.
Like,
Transformers. Snake is in disguise.
You're gonna try and Billy Mays. Oh, hey, it's Metal Gear. But wait, there's more. It's like, oh no. Metal Gear. But wait, there's more.
So does Snake have the Allspark now, and the fucking Megatron's gonna come for it?
And then, he's making a big speech about how Earth is his new home and he's going to protect it. All while Linkin Park is playing in the background.
And you can buy not one, but 2 ShamWows. Whoa! I'm an idiot.
if you
How
call
much
now,
is
I'll
it?
triple the offer.
You get 3 things instead of just 1. Be grateful.
And don't forget about this new product called Flex Tape.
Yes!
Oh Jesus!
I'm an
I'll take on the next question if you all don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
So why don't we talk about the Paris Games Week? What was everyone's impressions of that? We had games like Ghost of Tsushima, which
I
is
want it.
Sucker Punch's new IP. We have Marvel Spider-Man,
I want that too.
Final Fantasy 15's DLC, The Last of Us 2's new trailer, the new God of War
Teaser.
gameplay, Aloy as a playable skin in Monster Hunter World, Shadow of the
that is.
Colossus remake, Blood and Truth VR, and Detroit Become Human. Personally, I was not expecting much for this game show because it was supposed to be a small event. And I know we talked about this earlier with the rumors and leaks and stuff, but I saw a lot of people complaining that there wasn't Resident Evil 2 Remake and Devil May Cry 5, even though this was supposed to be a very small event. It's not a major event like
when did Paris Games Week announce a giant bombshell? I know they announced Nier Automata, but that's about it. That's not really world shaking to me, you know?
And even
Yeah,
then,
like,
Nier was like a niche series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like Ghost of Tsushima is really cool looking. That's like, as far as stuff that was new that was there and not stuff that we already knew was coming, that was the thing that really caught my attention, because it was like, hey, you know what, we're not really getting samurai games.
Game.
Oh my god! I saw that. I was immediately on board.
Yeah, when I saw that, it was like, for me, it was like, hey, you know what, we're not really getting samurai games. Neo's cool and all, and I like Neo, but it's like, can we get more stuff than just being Neo? And so it's very interesting to me that that's a thing.
As long as I can slice a dude's head off with a katana, we're good.
So, but as far as the other games are concerned, like, it's not that they were bad, it's just that it's like, okay, I knew these games were coming. The trailers are cool and whatnot. It's just that I was not expecting much for Paris Games Week per se, so I'm not disappointed. I'm not necessarily underwhelmed. I'm just patiently waiting for PlayStation Experience when actual new releases are going to be announced and stuff like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought it was okay. I also wasn't expecting anything particularly big. I don't think I've ever really watched Paris Games Week in its entirety until this year, so I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. But there was some interesting announcements, and I think definitely the highlights were Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2, and definitely the new Spider-Man game. I would have to say I'm mostly excited for the new Spider-Man game because with Ghost of Tsushima and also with Last of Us Part 2, even though I really love the first game, and I would almost say it's like one of my all-time favorite games, I just wanted to see more of The Last of Us Part 2, but I can understand if maybe they're not that far in development yet, so they're just going to give us another teaser. But I was surprised when I saw it was Last of Us Part 2 because they really kept us guessing throughout that entire teaser because these are just all characters we'd never seen before. And then all of a sudden you see the clickers pop up out of nowhere at the very end of the trailer. And then with some of the other ones like God of War, the new God of War, we didn't really see much more new in that regard. It was just some gameplay, and that's pretty much it. And that felt a little bit underwhelming. And then there was a bunch of shovelware stuff that I'm probably never going to play. But yeah, it was all right for what it was. It wasn't amazing. It was just decent, I suppose. But that's my opinion on it.
I guess I can go real quick if anyone
Yeah, go ahead.
else didn't want to go. All right, so Ghost of Tsushima, it looks very interesting. Sucker Punch, I really have no reason to doubt this studio because I did like the Infamous games. So it's going to be pretty impressive to see how they do things, especially with the whole open world skill tree aspects. They were done really well in Infamous. So I think that's going to convert into this game, and it's going to be very interesting. Spider-Man, I enjoyed the trailer. I thought it was great that you could play with Mary Jane now, all of a sudden, with stealth missions. So that's going to add a little bit more variety to the game. I like the God of War gameplay. There's like new body throws and everything now, so the combat is going to be a little bit more dynamic. Last of Us Part 2, I enjoyed it, but I didn't know what the hell was going on. Like, at first, I was just lost.
Yeah.
Like, random cultists torturing this lady.
I had that same problem.
It was a little weird, but now that I think about it, they did say they wanted to make the story a little bit more darker, so I don't mind them. And they're saying that this is Ellie's mom, apparently, so I guess before the outbreak there was cultists, so go figure. No, I think it was during the outbreak. It's like 5 or something years into the outbreak, according to the timeline.
I had a question about that real quick. Is this game kind of skipping around with the time, like going from before the outbreak to like the current where the game is at now, like after the first game?
Yeah, I made a comparison to this where if you ever seen the movie Godfather 2, then you would know that people in that movie, time tends to jump around. Like, you jump around in the present to Michael Corleone, then you jump around in the past to his father, Vito Corleone. So I made that sort of impression that maybe they're doing this with this game with Ellie's mom. You play with their mom in certain sections, and then you play with Ellie like sometime in the future.
Yeah, because I know like with the original game, they had that thing where it was just DLC where you played as that part in Ellie's backstory with her friend and what happened to them at the mall. And yeah, so I guess it's interesting that they're going to be doing this from like two different perspectives.
Also, to answer Reapers' question in the chat, it's already stealthing Spider-Man with the Spider-Man segments. I just think the MJ segments are going to be slowed down where you can distract people. I don't think she'll be able to fight anyone, obviously, because it's Mary fucking Jane. If you sneak up on someone and alert them, you'll probably get bodied. So I don't know how it's going to go, but as long as it's a very fun and dynamic game, I'm all for it. Go ahead.
If you don't mind me asking, since Ghost of Tsushima, that's like one of Sucker Punch's newest IPs.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it being very different as a samurai game in the sense that it's not taking place during the Civil War period, during like the late 1500s and early 1600s, like Neo is, where it's actually taking place in like the 1200s, and you also have like these stealth mechanics, which imply that you might also be able to become a ninja.
It's interesting because they said that this island, Tsushima, was prone to an invasion that happened in real life. So I assume there's going to be a lot of war elements around Tsushima, and this is where the stealth gameplay probably comes in, because obviously if a bunch of guys are fighting or whatever, you might have the option to go around them. I think it's an interesting concept. The whole ninja transforming thing, it looks interesting. I totally expected some mystical element, and that definitely looks like it, considering the fact that the guy literally turns into a fucking ninja and it looks like it's a power of some sort. So Infamous had powers, maybe this game will have it as well. That's what I'm thinking. Also, Ghost will not be all stealth. They confirmed it to be a stealth action game, so I'm sure that you'll be able to go around and fight people. I think there was gameplay at the end of the trailer too with the guy attacking a horse, so I'm pretty sure he got spotted by then.
Yeah, there was some like Tenchu like gameplay towards the end. Also like some bomb, which the whole little like hand bomb that he throws in the end of the trailer in the gameplay, that is actually historically accurate.
Yeah.
So, which is really nice that they took the time to try to make this game historically accurate too.
Yeah, I think the whole invasion aspect of Tsushima is going to be really interesting. So I can't wait to see what they do with it. Really.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone else?
I mean, Spider-Man looks real fun. I mean, I swear to God, if they add Mysterio or Carnage in there, I don't even care. I'm buying it immediately.
Yeah, they have to add Mysterio like they did with Spider-Man 2, and you punch him one time and he's dead.
that pissed me off because when I was a little guy, my favorite like Spider-Man villain of all time was Mysterio, and he still is. I know. Why isn't it Carnage? Because I like Mysterio.
I thought that fight was funny. He had like 7 health bars, and one punch did him in.
That literally, when I did it in Spider-Man, I was like, "Oh my God, are you fucking kidding me?" I walked up to him and I decked him in the face, and I was like, "Oh."
Mysterio was alright in the first game. He had a cool boss fight. That's all I'm gonna say.
In the PS1 game?
Yes.
Yeah, even though like I can't hear his voice without hearing Anti-Cosmo from Fairly Odd Parents because it's the same guy.
Yes, it is.
And I'm like, oh God.
So I guess we could move on to the next one.
Yep.
All right.
Somebody want to take the next question?
Want to let one of the new guys take the question since we've been mostly following them? How about Biscuit, because he hasn't been talking much, I don't think, if he's here.
Yeah, I've actually been constantly muting and unmuting my mic because for some reason my neighborhood just felt the need to do something outside. I guess I'll go with number 2. Microsoft officially ends production of the Xbox Kinect. I'm not really surprised. Who actually wanted the Kinect to keep going?
The Kinect just was shovelware city. All games shovelware. I think the last time I heard about Kinect was the fact that they were porting 3 games over to the Xbox One that had Kinect features, but it was no longer a Kinect game. It was so weird. So yeah, it was something that they wanted to sell well. I think they really dropped the ball when they tried to make Kinect functional with the Xbox One, and it could only work by being functional. So they fucked up there. And then go ahead.
They bundled like it didn't like when the Xbox One launched,
all
they
of
bundled
them had
everything
Kinects.
with the Kinect. It had to like, and the Kinect actually slowed down the performance of the console or something, so they eventually decided to like get rid of the support for that you didn't have to buy it together or something like that. I think it was.
You had to get it. It was mandatory, and I think
was it?
the Kinect also watched you as well. It was
It was like
NSA
a
shit. Yeah.
NSA spy. Yeah,
because
some weird shit
Microsoft
going
signed
on.
up for that. They signed like some kind of contract with the NSA to where they allowed the NSA to just spy on their customers.
Well, if you want to get into some real Alex Jones shit, I mean, we can talk about how the government may or may not be using your TVs to fucking spy on you and all this shit. I mean, not to mention Windows 10 could potentially be a government fucking spying device. But it's like whatever you want to know the weird shit I do on my spare time. Have at it, fam. I don't really give a fuck.
Have fun watching the hours of porn that I've watched over the years.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's like. I mean, they watch you anyway, but I mean, that's no justification for it. I know it's pretty fucked up, but yeah. It was dumb. I don't really, I mean, the Kinect, I doubt made Microsoft much of any money. I don't think the only people buying Kinect are just
casual families
who want some kind of knockoff Wii.
You know
And
what's funny
even
too?
then, they'll be disappointed because that's not what they're gonna. I mean, it's not
Mm.
gonna be as good as the Wii.
It's
So
borderline unplayable.
You
Yeah.
know what's funny too is that the Kinect is like one of those gaming devices that is a better medical tool than it is.
I was
a
gonna
gaming
mention that.
device.
That's the only
thing Kinect will ever probably be good for is being like some kind of medical device that they use in hospitals or something.
Yeah, they've used it for like surgeries to where they can pinpoint more accurately where they're supposed to like make incisions or where certain.
I'm actually
parts of
surprised
your
they
body are.
tried to do surgeries with that thing.
They're actually a more interesting use too is that they use the Kinect to make a belt for blind people, so that way they feel like vibrations on like depending on like direction of like an object that is like nearing them or a person or whatever. So like it'll vibrate depending on like what side that object or person is closest to them.
So Metal
That's
Gear
interesting.
Solid 2 AP sensor, fam?
Yeah, I mean you could think of it like that. Yeah.
That's pretty funny, actually.
I just remember Event talking about that, and he was showing the clips for that, and I always thought that was pretty cool. That you could use the Kinect to make a belt for the blind, but you can't use the Kinect to actually play. What is it? That one Capcom game where you were in the fucking mech.
Steel Battalion.
Steel Battalion. You can use the Kinect for medical purposes. You can never play Steel Battalion with the Kinect.
I totally forgot about that game. I'm dumb, but still. I think it kind of performed like worse with 360 as well because they tried to peddle it with everything or just kind of make it that necessity. You guys need to play this game. Because when my little brother got his console, it was like, well, I got to get to connect with it too. And my mom, well, why do you need to connect? And he goes, because I just do. The commercial says I need this for that. And she's like, well, why do you need it? Why do you actually need it?
No.
He couldn't give like a reason. Like you just needed it, but you had no reason to need it. Basically.
I put it like this: it's equivalent to PlayStation Eye. If I don't need to use it, then why bother? It's like it's only. I mean, I can see if it's good for people who don't have microphones, like headsets, and they want to use a quick, cheap microphone that they could buy, so they could buy like PlayStation Eye or maybe a Deck Connect somewhere and use it as a mic. But other than that, it watching you and also it being required for the Xbox One's launch where you couldn't boot the console without it, that was a huge detriment. So I think and the shovelware really wasn't that good. I mean, you got shit like Sonic Freeriders as a Kinect game. As a Kinect game, and it's like, why?
Star Wars Kinect.
Oh, don't remind me.
I'm Han Solo.
No, I'm Han Solo.
Oh no, that's where that garbage came from.
Yeah.
And you know what the sad part is that the original song that they were remixing is just as bad. It just they found a way to make it worse.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is just an inevitability. I mean, the Kinect was, I mean, it wasn't gonna live. Let's be honest. It was destined to just die.
It was DOA, really.
Yeah. All right. So I guess if nobody else has any opinions on this, we can move on to.
Sucks ass.
Yeah.
And it's racist too. So.
Hey man, let's go.
That is true. The Kinect cannot pick up black people for some reason.
I feel slightly offended now. To Microsoft, give me a new computer. Go.
Oh man, that's great.
I kid.
Take that up with Phil Spencer. All right, so I guess we should go to the next question. Anybody want to take?
Yeah, I'll grab one.
All right.
Let's get to the one that I've been waiting for. Question 8, with Game Awards revealing its Game of the Year 2017 lineup. So I have the awards pulled up, and it's between 5. The Game of the Year category, and that of course has the Breath of the Wild on it, Super Mario Odyssey, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, Persona 5, and Horizon Zero Dawn. And if you don't mind, we should take another step further at the end. I'd like to hear what everyone thinks about Game Awards ceremonies in general. So,
obviously, PUBG is Game of the Year. I mean, Without question.
Emphasis
Oh,
on the word.
Against
Yeah,
Mario
it's-
and Zelda? I don't think so.
Look, it's without question that it's going to be PUBG, and the only reason why me and Chaos think this is because Jeff Keighley already said he already said he was like, oh well, I think it's gonna be PUBG.
Yes, look,
Yeah,
you can your arms can stretch so far that you can stretch them around the corner and shoot somebody without even looking. I mean, it's genius.
Lovely.
It's like you can. Why hasn't Siege thought about that?
Clearly. My take on this whole list right here. PUBG is, I don't personally think, is a Game of the Year contender, especially because it's not finished.
It's not a game.
It's still it's can we, I don't know, maybe swap that with Neo, because that came out back in February. That I feel like that would be.
I mean, there's many more deserving games that should be on this list.
Yeah, I mean, like I could understand Persona 5 and Horizon. Like those two games I could understand.
Oh yeah.
And Mario and Zelda. But
I'm
not
being
PUBG.
completely serious
yeah,
here. Mine's Persona 5. I think Persona 5 is pretty much the essential Persona game. Like I think it's probably the best Persona game I've seen. I haven't beaten it yet, but from what I've played of it and from comparing it to the other Persona games I've played, I think it's definitely like I think Atlas really outdid themselves with it. I think it really is very much deserving of Game of the Year status. I think it is sold very well. I think a lot of people, even people who aren't Persona fans and have never even played Shin Megami Tensei or Persona, really got into the game, and it's really got them into Persona in general. So I think that says a lot about the game itself. So I think it's deserving of it. I mean, there are definitely games that I think is up there that I think Horizon also is. I really loved Horizon. Obviously, I platinumed the game, but I like Persona 5 more. So Persona 5 is my game of the year.
Anime trash.
Like,
Hey, look, it might be anime trash, but it's got the best waifus, and even I know that because I
It
fucking
does.
bought that game. And
I
I
love
still
all
haven't
seven
played
of
it.
It's a school
Yeah.
simulator.
You get
that
to
out of
date
here.
a
that's-
teacher, man.
that's-
Come on.
hey man,
Look, that's
he's a
my
hook-
fucking, look,
he's a
that's
maid.
like
Dom, I know you want to faff the Japanese ladies, but now it's not the
Look,
time.
cause her
Look,
name
it
is
always
Becky,
the time,
dude.
fam. It is always the time, fam. Okay, I'm telling you right now, it is best game for
No,
waifus.
Stop,
Okay?
stop
That
eating.
should be a category right there. Come on now, best waifu of
Yo,
2017.
can y'all imagine that though during an awards?
Stop eating Mugen
Best
Gai
waifus
pan off a
goes to-
Japanese woman's chest.
That's disgusting.
Alright,
but
but-
jokes aside, though, I think the what was it? The follow up question. What do we think about
The Game
award
Awards.
Oh
and
yeah,
shows.
award ceremonies or.
Obviously, with the VGAs, like no, just that's just a flat out no. Like every time it comes on, they find a way to make it worse every year.
I will say, hold on, just to give my 2 cents real quick. I think award shows can be good if they're legit. Like if a lot of award shows are fair and the awards go to things that are deserving of those awards. It's just that most of the time I feel like a lot of these award shows, not just game shows, but like the Oscars and the game awards can be pretty rigged. And I think that's pretty evident with I think it was 2015. I think it was the 2015 Game Awards where like I think Her Story won with best narrative over The Witcher 3, which is like I don't even know.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even know what the fuck that game was until I heard about that.
Wasn't
and-
everyone pissed that Overwatch won Game of the Year?
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
not
that's
like
true,
that.
yeah.
Over fucking Doom? No.
Yeah, a lot of stuff like that really just rubs me the wrong way about it. I think that I think award shows in concept is a fine idea, but I just think that most of the time it ends up being pretty rigged and towards one thing over another winning, and it wins mostly just because of either a message it pushes or because it's financially beneficial for that game to win, not so much because of its merits or anything like that, which is my whole problem with it.
Yeah, I think PUBG's definitely is gonna win because popularity is the biggest thing
Really?
out there right now. Yeah, it's literally like topping charts.
I was thinking that was a joke. I didn't think PUBG would
It
actually
is-
win. If PUBG wins, I'm going to. I think I'm.
No,
It's not
no,
a joke.
he's not wrong.
It's not
He's
a
not
joke.
wrong because the thing is that Jeff Keighley even said he's like, oh well, I think PUBG is gonna be Game of the Year. If he says it's gonna be Game of the Year, it's gonna be Game of the Year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing out there.
Kill
and
me now, fam.
It happened with Overwatch as well. It's like it was Game of the Year, but I was thinking for a second, like, yeah, I played the game and it was okay, but at the same time, it's like it's the most popular thing out there at the time.
Okay, I can kind of to an extent I can understand Overwatch, because it's so so many people play the game. It's really popular. It's not my cup of tea. I don't really give a fuck. I feel like if I play the game, I'd play it for like 2 hours and then I'd just put it down.
I think you'd want to get cancer over playing that game.
Yeah, but the same thing is gonna happen to PUBG too.
But I can't deny that I can't deny its appeal. It's like fucking Skyrim. I didn't really care much for Skyrim, but a lot of people love it. Whatever, I get the appeal. I just don't like it. That's just me. So I mean, I can kind of understand that. But with PUBG, like that game's not even finished. It's a fucking glitch fest from what I've seen of it. I don't understand why people play it. I mean, that game I legitimately don't understand why it would win in any Game of the Year award.
It's the same philosophy. I mean, because a lot of people play it, it's probably gonna win due to popularity, and I don't think they're basing these games on the quality anymore. It's gonna be just popularity contest, which is what the Game Awards is.
Yeah, I mean,
earlier too, by the way, like just a gaming contest, or is it a popularity show now? So far, it's been like hype and like notoriety that just
there was
one thing or another, but it's not the merit anymore.
Yeah, there was one Game Awards where they had fan voting. I think it was in 2014, or it was one of those where they had fan voting for like a while. And I thought that was the only one that felt legitimate. All the other ones were like trash. They have these rappers come out on stage, and it's just jarring. And you have people like, Loiter Squad coming out and talking about raping people on stage. And I'm like, fam, what? Fam, what are you talking about?
Hold on.
Tell me this is a joke.
It's
No,
not.
I remember
That's
we
the sad
reacted.
part.
I remember we reacted to that. That was pure fucking gold when they started. The rappers came out. It was great.
And I was like, what are they talking about? Yo, get them off the stage.
The sad thing is too is like, we talk about like what kinds of games are gonna win and whatnot, and it is a popularity contest. Look at like their section for fucking VR games. Most of the VR games that they have up on there are shovelware, with the exception of Resident Evil 7. So of course, by default, Resident Evil 7 is going to win, not only because of popularity, but because it's the only game that's actually a VR game and not shovelware.
Well, it was also made kind of. I feel like it was also made probably with VR in mind in the first place.
Well, no, we're not even talking about how that game was made, but simply just the games that it's going up against. It's going up against, shovelware. And on top of
there's just no competition really. It's just an easy win. I mean, it's just a bunch of fucking shovelware.
For maybe Super Hot, but
Super Hot's not shovelware. Absolutely.
But
yeah,
I'm talking about like at least a majority of the games that are on there. It's gonna be a popularity contest, and aside from like you guys were mentioning Super Hot, which I know that one's a little bit more popular too, but a lot of the other games, it was like I think it was like a PlayStation VR game that was on there. Sony just threw that shit out there and it was shovelware. Like I'd have never heard of anybody talk about that game. Not Super Hot, but the other one that
just Farpoint.
But it's like what is this competition? And then there are some of these other categories too. You look at like best ongoing game and best esports. Like,
who cares about best trending gamer? Get rid of it, please.
Yeah, like stuff like that.
Who's nominated here?
I don't even know any of the dudes on there. That's the funny thing.
Hold on, it'll be two fat fucks, Rich from Review Tech USA and Boogie.
God.
The
Oh
only
God.
person-
There's a fat fuck.
Oh God.
The only person that I've ever heard of on that trending gamer was that one chick from The Escapist. She was one of their people on the videos or whatever that they would send out. One of those gaming journalists or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think her name was like started with an R, but like
Hold on.
yeah, it's like I forgot her name. Andrea Renee, right? So yeah, they have Andrea up, but that's like the only person I've heard of. Everyone else, I'm like, who in the fuck are these people, and why are they trendy?
I've heard of Dr. Disrespect.
And third of all, third of all, why does it fucking matter if they're trendy? They shouldn't even be up here.
I agree.
This is not a category I care about.
It's something that could be consolidated to fit something else. Like, make a category that's actually pertinent to the games themselves. Like, we don't need to know about, PewDiePie being trending gamer and all that. We already know. Just make something else that's worthwhile,
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing with the best esports team and then best esports player. Because they have that as well.
It's weird how these game shows really push the esports thing. Like, they were talking about, like, the fucking Madden esports or whatever, and I never even knew that was a thing.
There's an esports team for Madden?
Just watch football.
Yeah. But
wow.
you know what's really funny, too, is that they have the esports category, too, for, like, best esports game, yet they keep ignoring Siege for best esport. They've done it for 2 years in a row now.
Jesus Christ!
Even though it is an esport and it does get ESL sponsored tournaments. So
yeah, that's weird.
I mean, but well, besides Rocket League, which one is it going to topple here? I mean, Overwatch is being forced and has been forced for the past 6 months because of their new franchising exclusivity garbage. The rest are either ESL sponsored or widely touted as the top esports games that have a universal appeal. I mean, Rocket League is probably the weak one, so maybe you'd see Rainbow Six up there, but then you've got Counter-Strike, so I don't know.
Yeah, which is another thing. It's like, even if you put it up there, it's like you're going up against Counter-Strike and Overwatch, and it's like,
right.
what the fuck? What are these fucking, like, what are you putting these games up against, and what are these fucking categories? Like, who does, like, who's doing these? Like, come on.
Yeah,
that's
interns.
Yeah, that's why I asked that second question. I was wondering what you guys thought about these sort of awards, because you have stupid categories like this, and you have this, at least the past couple of years, you've had these big sponsor pushes from either the esports teams. You have Schick sponsoring the best debut indie game. You've got, an HP product sponsoring the best esports player. I just feel like it's becoming just another highly commercialized, like, masturbatory type perversion, where everyone just goes there and pats themselves on the back for a while, and like they don't really care about the games, they don't care about the gamers, they don't care about the fans. That's the only reason why I ask.
Because I think, wasn't it last year where they had the Gillette guy on stage sponsored by esports?
The Gillette guy.
And it was a giant fucking shaver on stage. And
right. I remember that.
What? Why?
Yeah, if I can find a picture of it, I'll put it in the chat.
That's
but
some product
why
placement.
though?
I know what you're talking about because I got pissed off. Like, yo, my razor.
Just so you guys know, the Infinite Ammo Syndicate podcast is officially sponsored by Gillette razors.
I quit.
Well,
Those things break on me.
I think I found it.
They are not hydrating enough.
The razor guy.
They lied.
Post it, please.
They lied to me.
Yeah, that
that's
thing.
it.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
He's gonna fucking cut your head off with his fucking head.
My man. Why?
I have no clue.
He had to have gotten paid a lot of fucking money to do that. And that's the
Anyway,
only
my
way.
game of the year is Mario Odyssey.
I liked Horizon. I thought Horizon was
I
pretty
didn't play
good.
that. That's why.
Yeah. It's like Game of the Year is going to vary for everyone, but I don't think it should be PUBG. It's not even finished. I think if the game had time to get out of early access, then maybe, but I just don't feel right about it.
Right.
Might as well have a category called Best Early Access Game of the Year.
I mean, yeah, you can have that category. It'll make sense, at least having it as early access instead of Game of the Year, because the Game of the Year seems like it's a huge deal. Like, and having an early access game that's not finished there doesn't seem like it fits in that category.
Yep,
I know
absolutely.
I know this is diverging, but I did bring this up to the year prior and last year as well, where like when they do they have those break segments where they start having like a music show going on. Like I've always asked, why don't they bring up like music, like have the musicians and whatnot play music from the nominated games during the break times? But they only did it last year with only one song, and that was with was it one of the tracks from Doom, and that was the only thing.
Yeah, that's the only one I remember them doing.
Yeah.
Doom.
I was also gonna mention, like, okay, if PUBG does win, like, what kind of precedent does that really set? Because you're giving Game of the Year to a game that's not even finished. I mean, what does that say exactly? I mean, and anybody that just means anybody can make an unfinished game, and their game could potentially be Game of the Year, and everybody will fucking love it, and they don't have to put in the effort in to finish the game. So it's just like, well, hey, it's everyone loves our game. We don't have to do anything and put in the effort to actually finish the game. I don't know. I think that would be bad if PUBG actually wins.
I think you're so right about that. I mean, look at the description of the award. Recognizing a game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. PUBG, first of all, is not creative. It's a DayZ mod. And second of all, I don't think anybody that has played PUBG can argue that they've had the best technical experience doing the game. That is the absolute opposite.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So I think we should probably move on. There is anybody that wants to take another question on the documents?
I'll take one.
All right.
Let's do number 4. Considering how there's been so many new game releases between October and November, have you played any of them? If so, what are the impressions? Of the list here, I have played Wolfenstein 2, obviously Mario Odyssey, and COD World War 2. I got some things to say about Wolfenstein 2.
Oof.
First off, what the fuck is wrong with your difficulty scaling? Because that was fucking... Why?
Oh, boy.
I mean, good God. I was getting my ass kicked in level 1, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong?
Oh, did you make it to the courthouse level?
Oh, fuck that. I beat the game. At that point, I had put it on easy because I'm like, I'm sick of this shit. I just want to blow Nazis' faces off. Everything else about it was pretty cool. But, like, that first couple hours before the courthouse thing, I wanted to just chuck my controller at the TV. And remember, the one thing that people didn't really like about the New Order was the stealth sections. What do they do in this game? Hey, let's put in a fuck ton more. Awesome.
Actually, if I could play devil's advocate, I didn't find the stealth sections to be bad, but yeah, I didn't like the fact that if you got spotted, then you would have to kill the commander, which, he could be anywhere. It could take some fucking time to kill him, and
you're gonna have to go through those fucking waves of enemies to get to that commander, and
they keep infinitely respawning, and it's not really the greatest fucking experience.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mario
so
Odyssey, great game.
Mm-hmm.
COD World War 2, not bad, not great. It's like the best COD I've played since really MW2, in my opinion. But perfectly fine.
So I guess I'll go ahead with mine because I have quite a bit to say, at least about one of the games on here. I'll just go ahead and get this one at least out of the way because the only 2 games I played on here was Evil Within 2 and Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. Evil Within 2 is actually a surprisingly good game. I honestly didn't care all that much for the first game. It's okay. I really didn't like it when I first played it, but going back to it, it's not as bad as I remember it being. It's okay for what it is. The plot is a little bit messy. It's very all over the place. The difficulty is bullshit in my opinion. I think there's just a lot of cheap things in the game, like the traps. There are insta-death traps. There's insta-kill enemies that will kill you instantly. I really didn't like any of that. You have to be really conservative of your ammo, even when the game forces you to basically, get into combat situations and have to use your ammo. I didn't like a lot about the first game, but the second game really actually addressed a lot of those issues. Like, the game gives you just enough ammo to get through certain sections. It is semi-open world, but it's not really open world. It's just open enough, but it's more like I don't know if I want to say like a hub area, but it's a little area you can explore. I wouldn't call it open world though. The story is better. It's more consistent. It's not as much of a mess as the first game is. But you do have to play some of the DLC for the first game to really understand some of the things in the second game. You don't have to, but it helps. And the difficulty is also is not cheap like it was in the first game. There's not all these insta-death traps and insta-kill enemies like there are in the first game. I think it's a lot. It's overall basically it's just a lot better than the first one. Really enjoyed Evil Within 2. Now Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. This is a game I really wanted to like,
me too.
Because the New Order, I love the New Order. The New Order was fucking great.
Yeah, same
New
boat.
Colossus. I don't like it. I'll be completely honest, and I love the New Order. I don't really like the New Colossus. I'm not gonna go into all the political bullshit they put into the game. Whatever, I could get past it. Not a big deal. The core gameplay is good for what it is. That even if okay, well, I'm gonna address the difficulty thing because the shooting Nazis and all that, it's great, it's fun. But you get a little bit more into the game. Specifically in certain levels, like in the courthouse level, for example, the game gets bullshit. It's just the courthouse level is infamous because there's waves and waves of like 4 to 5 waves of enemies. It just throws at you, and it's just out of nowhere. Like it just gets real fucking hard. And then it goes back to being fairly easy again after that, and then it'll just go kind of all over the place from being okay to like really fucking hard to the point where you might have to turn down the difficulty.
Which I had to.
Yeah, it's really inconsistent, and that's what I really don't like that about it. I don't really care much for the story, honestly. Like, and I mean, the story of the New Order was fine. It did what it had to do, and it wasn't really story heavy. But the New Colossus kind of it kind of like the game kind of stops at some points to like tell you the story, and the story, in my opinion, really just isn't that interesting. I'd really rather they had just like cut those parts out to where you're not like, because there's just segments where you're just kind of, you're not even shooting, you're just like like there's one segment where you're walking around a fucking farm, your own old farmhouse.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it just takes you out of the game. It's like, what is this? Where it's just really, it feels like it's just all these pacing issues with the game. In my opinion, is kind of just weird. But there's also a lot of technical issues I've had with the game on PC. I'm running like a GTX 980 or not 980, 970. I got a fairly decent gaming rig. The game runs like complete ass. Like it just does not run well on my PC. I don't, I'm having, hearing from people with similar hardware who say it runs good. Some people are saying it runs like ass. It's not very well optimized on PC. People are having different experiences with the PC version of the game. And I don't know, a lot of people say it's well optimized. I don't agree. I think it's really shit optimized. I don't know. I can't even play the game at this point. I kind of want to record this happening because there is a segment I'm at right now where the game has literally become unplayable because there's a section where the frame rate is 60 frames, and then all of a sudden you get onto this elevator and it drops all the way down to 19, like sub 20 FPS. I don't know why. It's just so random and out of nowhere. I don't know why it happens, but it's just a technical nightmare. I don't know what the fuck they were doing when they made this game. And I don't remember having any of these issues with New Order. It's just so bizarre. So I don't know. I think it might have to do with them rushing the game out the door, but it plays like ass on my PC, and I'm hearing from a lot of other people they're having issues with it too. So I don't know. I know I went into a really long tirade about this, but yeah, this game just has pissed me off so much. So
one more thing to say about Wolfenstein 2. There was no final boss really. You know, in the New Order, you got William Strauss coming out, and he says the thing from the original game. You know, die, Allied Schweinhund, and you're like, oh my god, he's in a big mech. I get to shoot the shit out of him. But in the new Colossus, you fight 2 big robots, and then you go to some kind of night. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling this for you.
Spoilers, fam.
Yeah, and you go to a place, and then you just do a quick time event to kill the main bad guy. And I'm like, wow, that was not worth all of the effort that I had to deal with.
I mean, I like the game, but I can
No,
agree
it was
that
a great game.
I can agree that it gets bullshitty at times, especially those enemies that come out in swarms. It's like, yeah, this really feels fucking annoying that I'm mowing down like 10 or 13 guys, and then a swarm comes behind me and I'm dead, and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Also, I'd like to point out that only 2 people on the face of this planet has the platinum trophy because of Mean Lieben, which is playing the game through, I think, impossible difficulty, but you only die once and you go back to the beginning.
Yeah, they did that in the first one with that Iron Man challenge, which I almost beat until freaking Strauss shot me in my ass.
But yeah, only 2 people have the platinum trophy, so go figure.
I'm not fucking doing that. I'm not playing that.
I was looking on forums and people were complaining about the difficulty. They were saying stuff like, I don't even think the devs played through this game on this difficulty because they don't even know how hard this is. Yeah, I'm playing on, they call me Terribility difficulty, and
I just put the shit on the easiest. Like, fuck it, I want to beat the game. See what happens. I want to shoot Nazis in the face.
Well, I'm a masochist, so.
I played the first one on a pretty high one, but
yeah,
I'm playing the first one on Uber, and that game is very painful, dying a lot. If you don't know what you're doing, then you're gonna die a fucking lot.
Especially with those big dudes. I hate those big dudes.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
the robots.
Or am I thinking of new Old Blood? I might be thinking of Old Blood.
All right. So Dom, you were saying something?
Yeah, the only game that I've played within that release window between October and November is Evil Within 2. I was super pumped for the game, and I finally got it, and I enjoyed it. It was there were bugs in the game that I'm not denying, but overall, as far as like an overall experience, I would say it's a lot better than the first one. There are some things I think they could definitely improve on.
The bugs in that game are horrible. Awful.
Yeah, like I mean, even now with the Pro patch, because I'm playing it on Pro. I don't think it's at a locked 60. It's definitely above 30, but it's not a locked 60. I do feel like there are times where it dips below near like to 40s almost, but I could be wrong, and until Digital Foundry does an updated video on the Pro and X support for that game, then I'll stand corrected. But with the game and how it is, like, there are some things that I think they really could have worked on. For one, if you're playing it on console, there is no FOV slider, and that is like, they really need a fucking FOV slider. Like, the fact that the first game, and as much as I like the first game has this issue too, where there are times, and in most cases, where the camera just zooms in way too close to the gun, and it's really hard to aim at things that are getting close to you. And of course, this becomes an even bigger issue if you're equipped with a specific weapon in the game. It's one of the handguns that you get early on in the game if you start exploring Union a little bit, called the laser gun. And basically, it's just a standard handgun with the laser sights to make more pinpoint and accurate shots. But yeah, that gun, if you have that equipped, it zooms in way too close, in my opinion. And I think an FOV slider would have helped with that. Also, another issue is that the pre-order DLC. Now, granted, it's a DLC weapon. DLC weapons generally don't tend to be that great. definitely not as good as, say, like the Firebolt that you get in the Evil Within 1's pre-order DLC. The Poison Gas Bolt was really bad and useless, but that's beside the point. The pre-order DLC, from what I've seen and from what I've experienced, is that either you get to use it or you don't, even though you've redeemed the code and you've pre-ordered the game. I think Ren, you were able to access it.
I have it.
Myself and Brandon were not able to access it at all. James wasn't able to access it until after New Game Plus. So it's like, I don't know, and Bethesda did acknowledge this as an issue, so I'm not sure if they're gonna ever release a patch to fix that or what, because I have no idea how to access that stuff, and it would be really nice because I paid $60 for the for the game to pre-order it and whatnot, and like I said, it's DLC stuff, DLC pre-order weapons, which are probably not that great anyway, but I was promised that stuff, and I did redeem the code for it, so I should be entitled to my stuff. Story-wise, I think the game is definitely an improvement. I was not too thrilled about the voice actor change with Sebastian initially, but I do think, like, as the game goes on, it kind of grows on you.
I didn't mind him
personally.
honestly.
Personally, it grew on me after I played more and more of the game. Like, the more I got to experience Sebastian and just hear him talk and stuff, it just grew on me. So
Yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of it initially. I didn't think it was bad. It just didn't sound right initially.
Anson Mount is stuck in Inhumans hell right now. So
yeah. What's like? Why did you sign up for that dog shit?
I have no clue.
He looks like he wants to kill himself in the promo picture.
He does. He looks so fucking miserable. And
it's probably his agent that signed him up for that. But story-wise, the story is good, but there are things that I actually have issues with it too, because there are some things that just aren't answered. And this stuff might be answered in potential DLC. As far as like the game is concerned, they have not announced a season pass or anything like that, like they did with the first game before launch or anything like that. So we don't know if there is going to be DLC that will come, but I would assume that just like the first game, it would probably be the following year when we would start seeing that stuff.
I won't spoil anything, but I was actually surprised at how conclusive the ending of this game ended up being. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't mean there's not room for any sequel or any follow up, but it actually ended up being pretty conclusive by the end of it.
Yeah, for at least for Sebastian, it is, but for some of the other characters, not so much. Maybe slightly Sebastian if you take into consideration the ending of the first game, because that's not really addressed in the second game too much because of
that's true.
Twist, but
I find it odd that they didn't do anything with what happens to Leslie or anything. He's not really ever addressed, or he's obviously talked about in the files and everything, but I mean in the actual plot, like he has nothing to do with it. So
right. So just to kind of address that before I let somebody else go, like, because this was the only game that I played. So I mean, there are characters in the game that you either interact with or that are brought up. One in particular, Joseph, you find out that he's alive. Spoiler alert. It's not too major of a spoiler per se, but you find out that he's alive, but that's all you know. Is that he's alive. You don't know what happened to him. You don't know what's going on with him. You don't know if he's hooked up to another STEM system. Nothing like that. So that's not answered. There's a particular thing about Kidman that was kind of started in the DLC of the first game that is kind of questionable with the ending of the second game, because the way that she looks at her hand, because there's something that happens in her hand at the end of the DLC of the first game. It gets healed up or whatever, but she kind of looks at it and just walks away like she still has something to do, and that's not really like, it just kind of leaves you head scratching like, okay, well, what's going on with that? One of the characters that you interact within the game that you help save, he leaves, and the only thing you know is that you let him go through this thing, but you don't know if he's in a part of STEM that is completely uncharted and inaccessible, or if he was able to actually get out and survive. That's all you know.
Oh yeah, that's true. You never find out what happened to him.
And
but
then-
it was mostly a side quest, but it still was important.
Yeah, so it's like stuff like that, and even the ending too. Like, all you know is that one of the monitors next to the STEM terminals goes on, and we don't know what that means other than potential sequel bait or
Yeah, mostly came off as sequel bait to me.
I'm gonna have to label this whole section as spoilers.
You might as well, man. I don't care. Like that, it's just a lot of shit that it's like this needs to be answered
Consideration
somehow
for the fans,
because, like,
motherfucker. I'm gonna label it as spoilers though.
Okay, but yeah. But long story short, it's like stuff like that. It's like that stuff's not answered per se, not directly at least. So either that's going to get answered in DLC if they decide to do DLC, or another game if they potentially decide to do another sequel. So it's just a matter of waiting and see at this point. But that is some of the gripes that I did have. It's just, you know, the FOV thing and the frame rate issue on the Pro patch, and also just the questions that were left unanswered.
Anybody else?
Something I want to mention, since we're still talking about The Evil Within 2, I too have played it, and I'm kind of surprised that you both didn't mention the bosses. And because personally, to me, I feel like they're far uncreative compared to the first game. Because if I remember correctly, the first game's bosses were a lot more, how would I say, there was a lot of variety, and they also had a certain interpretation with the main villain, because I think that's the reason why they looked that way. As for the bosses in Evil Within 2, I mean, they were kind of uninspiring, and on top of that, I didn't see the trailers, so I didn't really know who was in it, who wasn't. So I was under the impression that the first person that you come across that you would assume was the main antagonist was going to remain as the main antagonist for the rest of the game. But once you dealt with him, it's revealed that somebody else is also involved, and I thought that was thrown out of left field.
Yeah, that also took me by surprise.
Yeah,
when you encounter him, it's just a boss rush. I mean, I'm glad to see since this is still spoiler talk, I'm just mentioning this right now. Since you face the second antagonist and he becomes just a boss rush, I'm kind of glad that we see a couple of bosses from the old game, but again, it's not inspiring. It's not inspiring, and I kind of expected something new.
I liked the I liked the Stefano. I thought the Stefano fight was all right. I mean, could it have been more interesting? Sure. I mean, I thought the thing with it and having like a giant eye camera thing was pretty interesting, but it didn't actually play. I mean, it did kind of play a role in the fight, but not much. Yeah, I would agree that the first game had more interesting looking boss.
It's a catch-22 because they had more interesting bosses, but they also had more one-hit kill bosses.
Yeah, and that's what I really didn't like about the first game in general. So I don't know.
Maybe just I know this would be really diverging, but still on topic and to some degree. Maybe they could, for argument's sake, for a potential third game, they could take what worked in both the first game and the second game and just kind of do like a mix match. Have like interesting boss and enemy designs, but also have like the exploration and better like gameplay balance and whatnot from the second game.
I actually thought the final boss was really really creepy, really interesting in terms
That
of
was the only
design.
boss that I really enjoyed, aside from Stefano. But I don't know. Just something I wanted to mention because I noticed nobody else mentioned that. So
Yeah. So I don't know if nobody else has anything to say on the topic. I think we diverged a while ago. Let's move on to something else. If somebody, let's see, when do we?
We
why
got
don't we talk
like
about
2 more
I'll take
questions because it's almost 2 hours.
why don't we
Alright,
talk about Neo's PC release?
Sure.
happy for
Sure.
anybody
Let's
who didn't get it.
I'll go first. I mean, I haven't played the game on PC, but I mean, I've actually been surprised. I've been surprised to hear good things about the PC version of Neo. The only downside to it is apparently the game is 100 gigs, so you better free up that hard drive space. But the good news is that it's well optimized on PC apparently, and it runs pretty well. So yeah, I mean, now you can have Neo in 60 frames and have it look amazing. So I mean, that's
It was always in 60 frames. You just have to pick an option.
was it 60 frames in cinematic mode?
No, in action
you have
mode
to pick
it was.
action mode to have 60.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that you would have to sacrifice the visuals in order to have 60 frames. If you played it in cinematic mode, it would be more visually intensive, but because of that, it would be 30 frames. So, I mean, but with the PC version, you don't have to. I mean, if you have decent hardware, you don't have to worry about it.
The only issue with Neo is the file size. It's 100 gigs.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, they really need to do something about that. In my opinion, that's pretty ridiculous. I don't see a reason why it's 100 gigs either. It doesn't make any sense.
4K assets apparently, which
it?
I don't care about. Yeah. Which I don't really care about. I mean, the best I would want is 1080p 60 FPS, and that's about it.
Yeah.
For as far as the PC port is concerned, it's probably one of those better Koei Tecmo ports, as far as I'm aware, because Koei Tecmo does have a reputation of having hit or miss ports.
Yeah, DOA was not great at all on PC. Also, I think they fucked up Berserk as well, Band of the Hawk, because I played that game for a little bit and it was 30 FPS and I couldn't fix it. So,
Neither was what is it? Oh, you played a Musou game on PC. That's where you fucked up. Because let me tell you why actually. Because what they did for the longest time was they would take PS3 environments, textures, and character models. But now what they do is they do everything but the character models using PS3 textures and whatnot and PS3 assets. The only thing that's PS4 related is the character models themselves. Those are the assets from the PS4.
Yeah, all I was gonna say was it's still a Koei Tecmo product, so it kind of fits in line with them fucking up PC ports. So yeah, it's the only thing is just being 100 gigs. It seems terrible, but the reviews on the Steam page seem to say that Neo on PC is mostly positive. So I assume it has to be a decent port, otherwise it wouldn't be rated like that. We've seen PC ports in the past just downvoted for the most funniest shit, I will say. So yeah, that's what I think about it. It's pretty good that they managed to at least make this somewhat good.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so we're going to close off with the last question. So I think TJ wanted to take a question. Let me see, 13. Also, yeah, there's not enough time to go over the other two, so we have to get through that one.
So I'll try this one pretty cool. 13 reads, have you heard any awful stories of midnight launch gaming stores? And also, have you personally gone to a midnight release? I've been to about 3-4 of them, and it's all kind of a mixed bag. It depends on the crowd you get, how early you get there, and who are running the release. Because the first one I went to was kind of funny. It was Modern Warfare 3 in the mall across from my campus, and there was like a dude in a ghillie suit running around like teabagging people, and everyone's like, this is kind of weird. We've never done this before.
Hold on, wait.
Everyone,
a guy teabagged someone at a midnight release.
Yeah,
in a ghillie suit.
The dude came out with like a fake, like a prop sniper rifle, ghillie suit from behind the sign, like this big display that used to be at the mall, and he like fake shot a dude, and the dude like goes down like he's in COD, and then he starts teabagging the guy's corpse. Stupid.
Would have been real funny if he just like put an actual tea bag on their face.
He should have shot him.
But yeah, it wasn't like a pellet gun. It was kind of like a little prop gun. So nothing came out of a little piece. So the dude just kind of went along with it, and everyone's had a fun time. But another release I went to was Pokemon X and Y, I think, came out because they had the Smash thing with it as well. So I guess that was a double. And the Pokemon kids are kind of chill. We all like took our 3 and started playing games, reading and shit. And the Smash kids are like, yeah, we just want a fucking game now. Let's go ahead and play PM. Show these little casual faggots who really runs the city. I'm like, yo, y'all are making this event kind of unfun because there's 2 huge amounts of people outside of one tiny location. And the employees are trying to get things together. We're trying to not kill each other. Let's just keep these lines, just people. We're just people. Let's leave it at that. Just leave the whole competitive stuff alone. But as far as any awful stories at these things, I don't think that there have been any. I think it would usually fall in line with the management because whenever you go to a midnight release, they usually keep X amount of people's records and receipts and copies on hand. And they usually try and sell copies at the store for people who didn't pre-order. So the only times that it's been bad, or I guess bad, is people would show up to the store and like want to buy the game and they have no copies. And of course, people get pissy and like, well, it's 2 o'clock in the fucking morning. Why don't you have my game? It's like, we only had enough to cover the people who came for the release. Maybe a couple extra handout copies. Well, you don't have one for me, so I'm gonna like sue the fucking store or whatever. And the employees like, dude, it's almost like 2, 3 in the morning. Just get out of here. I'm tired of having school and work in the morning. Just let it. But honestly, it's usually not that bad. It's pretty fun if you meet the right people or go with some friends. It's pretty fun. Also depends on what game you're buying too, because some of the crowds are just really I can't think of a word to describe people these days in my city, but it depends on what kind of people you meet and go with, interact with at these events. It's kind of cool. Have you guys been to midnight releases lately for any of these games? Or no?
I've been to about like 4. I went to MW3. That was probably a bigger one. I went to the Evil Within 1's midnight release. I think I also went to Black Ops 2's midnight release. I don't remember though. But one that I do remember like fondly because of how fucking bad it was the ORC Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City midnight release. Yeah, they actually had a midnight release for that.
That game.
Yeah,
Dom,
like I
went
went to it. Yeah, no, because like, and keep in mind, I was like 14 when that game came out, so I'm like, 14. I'm not really doing my homework on games.
I saw the
point,
trailer
but...
for that shit, and I'm like, really, Capcom?
Well, you're what? You're a couple of years older than me, so you were probably looking at that shit like that's fucking disgusting, Capcom.
Yeah, the whole third person co-op elements just didn't sit right with me. The same with the SOCOM team taking over. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, see, because like I was like 14, so like they could flash a bunch of keys in front of my face and I'd go for it, like because that was me when I was 14.
Capcom fan 2010.
Oh, fuck off with that cancer, okay? I would kill my younger self a million times over just to wash my hands off of that garbage ass name. But
I'm gonna do it
anyway. Yeah, I went there and it was like me and like 4 middle-aged dudes, like dudes in their like 30s waiting in line to get that game. And it was like the shortest midnight release I had ever been to. It was dead.
That sounds like hell of. All the ones I've been to just had massive lines and like a lot of hyped up people or people trying to be hyped. Usually I just stand around and look at. Yes, there's always that one dickhead. Come on, everybody, get hyped, new game. It's just about to hit the fan. I'm like, this almost 12 o'clock at night.
I've been ready. It's 12 o'clock. Just calm down.
It's cold outside. I can't feel my legs. I have a report to finish in 2 hours. Listen, so weird.
I remember when people were camping outside for Halo, and I'm like,
wait, which Halo?
I think
Probably
it was
3.
Halo 3, and I'm like, why?
Finish the fight.
Finish the fight. Why are you camping outside in a makeshift?
They wanted
tent?
to finish the fight. they couldn't handle that Halo 2 cliffhanger.
They had
Let's be real. That Halo 2 cliffhanger was ass.
They had to finish the fight in like fucking 35-degree weather.
Yes.
It's like,
Unfortunately, I don't think I know what question we're on. I don't think I've had midnight release story because I just don't do midnight releases. I can usually wait to pick up a game. Some
Yeah.
people can't though, so it's like I don't know.
Now that's
Yeah.
really irrelevant because you have things like Amazon, so that they'll just bring that shit to you in the morning.
Or
Yeah,
you
exactly.
could just download it digitally.
oh yeah, you
or
get
that
it.
too.
You get it right at midnight, digital.
Yeah, my
Oh,
mom never allowed me to go outside the house after 11 o'clock, so I never did a midnight release.
Hey, good parenting. Nice.
I know my buddies did Halo 4 up here in where I live.
I could have done it, but I just wasn't fucking interested. It's like I could get the game digital anyway, and I can get the game like sometime in the morning. It's not worth staying outside in the cold ass weather just to pick up a disc, unless you're really are desperate to get it like as soon as possible, or if you're into physical collecting. That's the only reason I would see people do something like that, but it's not for me.
Ren, you don't understand. I need Call of Duty and I need it night. I need it right now.
I don't get Call of Duty gatherings at midnight either.
Yeah, see that, and that's the thing though. Like, I think, like, honestly, if you can wait like a few hours, all you have to do is just make an order, like on Amazon or whatever, and just wait a few hours, and there you go. Or like somebody said earlier, just pre-order it digitally.
That's what I did with Injustice.
Mhm.
Yeah, like it depends. Like if you like collecting discs, then just make it like pre-order it on Amazon, and you'll be fine. But if you don't care about that shit, then just pre-order it digitally, and depending on where you live, you might even be able to play it earlier than midnight. So that kind of works out in your favor too.
We have those options available. Always fun to like consider, I guess, different alternatives. I just went because it was something. Hours of time. Like at one point, I remember doing a paper, and my brother's like, "Yeah, let's go to this midnight release." No, I got to do it. Like, he's like, "Yeah, it's only gonna take an hour." I was like, "Dude, it's 11 o'clock at night." So nah. Eventually, I wound up going because why don't you want to just get your game? I'm like, I'm not gonna go anyway, so big deal. So took a break from the paper with the midnight release. Like, this better not be fucking. Please let it be. It was kind of fun. I enjoyed it. Just is again the people in the venue that can make it or break it. It's kind of dull, or not that many people, I guess, who you could vibe with. It's going to be a lot less interesting. But the ones I've gone to, it's just, gap in schedule, take a break, whatever, and why not? Sure, let's have a fun time and chill out, meet and stuff. Some of those folks will go to my school, all right. But yeah, it all just depends on the person. That's just how it's.
Yeah, I think it's best to go to a convention over midnight releases if you want to like probably
I
meet
totally
new
agree.
people, because
Yeah.
if you go to GameStop, you're bound to see some dumb motherfuckers in there. Like,
Oh,
That's
yeah.
an understatement. Yeah.
there was one guy who said like Call of Duty was the best game ever made in human history, and I'm like,
Boy,
What?
oh,
I was like,
That's
what
a
are you-
reach.
what
You
are
don't
you-
play that many games, I suppose.
And then I asked him sarcastically, like, "Are you a fan of Madden too? Because it comes out every year." And he's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Okay,
Oh,
then I know what kind of person you are."
I met a dude
Do
like
you
that
have the
one.
FIFA?
Do you have the
No.
FIFA?
everybody
man.
knows the best football game is Tecmo Bowl on the NES.
Hey, man, I thought that was RuneScape. I'll fight you for this title. I'll do it.
I said football game, not best game ever.
Hey man, I'll kill you for that one. All right. Find me in
Well,
the wilderness. No, I
shit.
won't. I'll tell my mom on you. She'll fight you for me. You go to sleep. Dude.
No kidding, this is my papa.
I hate this
that
already.
reminds me of the midnight release thing. Reminds me of the episode where Cartman's waiting outside games.
Oh yeah, for
That's
the week.
exactly what it is. A lot of like jumped up jackass kids. Well, there's maybe one or two kids there who are all super hyped. It's like, dude, I'm maybe twice.
need the
Gonna have no
Wii.
bedtime.
I need
Like at one point, this little kid was in the line, and his mom's like screaming across the parking lot, "When the fuck are you gonna get this game?" And he's like, "I don't know. This door's not open. The door is locked." He starts to cry. I'm like, "Oh, poor kid."
Damn.
This little
son.
kid.
Jesus.
My
Wow.
mom can't tell me that because she's 2 cities away. I'm here right now. Poor guy. You probably have a bedtime in school. I don't, because
I'm a grown ass man.
I'm
What's
an
school?
adult motherfucker. I got privileges.
I have a job.
remember when I could say those
And
things.
then I have to pay bills, but that part sucks.
But it's okay because I sit at home all day and not work. play this new game. Ah!
Homework. What's that?
Everybody wins except
Calling
me.
Sick. Say you're sick. You're not really sick.
As far as competitive,
I need to go to
yeah.
a doctor's appointment totally to just it's life threatening. Just
I might have cancer. Just kidding.
All right, anyone else on this topic? Before we close out?
No, I never had an experience.
Really?
So.
I never went to any midnight releases, so I don't have an opinion. I just know that people ask me stupid questions in fucking GameStop, but that's an entirely different podcast entirely with stupid.
Red, when are you gonna work at GameStop?
No, I cannot do that, especially with people who come in there and they don't even know what the games they're looking for is. Like, oh, do you know that one game that's like the first-person shooter?
oh
And
my
I'm
God.
like,
Oh yeah, that one game that's a first person.
In space or not in space?
there's billions on the shelf. Why don't you go look?
Oh, that's what I was looking for. Mario Odyssey. There you go. That's what I was looking for the whole time.
I should do that, by the way. That would be like a dick. No, actually, I think the only story that I have is funny is that I kind of conned some guy. He was looking for Street Fighter 4, the any version really, and I think I had Super Street Fighter 4 in my hand, so that was the updated version. And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to get Street Fighter. Which version do you think is the best? And I told him, hey, have the vanilla one right here without all the new characters. I'll take Super, and there you go. That was the only time I was ever a scumbag, but I managed to get Super Street Fighter 4.
Dang.
Wow.
Well played.
Dick move.
Well played, though. He played it honestly.
Yeah, you could have done even worse. And if he was looking for Skyrim, give him the PS3 version.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh my God.
All right, so I think we're going to wrap up for this podcast. So we're going to do outros. So, Mr. Chaos, can you take the floor with outros, please?
Yeah, sure. As you guys know, I'm Captain Chaos. You can find me on both YouTube and Twitter, and you can also find me on Patreon. I'm just kidding. You can't find me there yet. At least not yet. I'm not a shill just yet, but I might be. And obviously, we got the main host here, Mr. Renegade Operative. Where can we find you, man?
You can find me on Twitter at RenOperative_. You can find me on YouTube at Renegade Operative.
Awesome. Mr. Biodevil Dom.
You can find me as Biodevil_Dom on both Twitter and YouTube. Twitter, you'll probably see me shitposting the Devil May Cry and Resident Evil communities when they bitch about something not showing up at PSX. So do stay tuned to that.
That'll be fun. Next up, we got Duff King 56.
You can find me on my YouTube channel, DuffGame56. Besides that, I don't really use anything else.
All right. Next we got Mr. Italian Stallion.
You can find me on YouTube at Italian Stallion 330, Twitter at ITStallion330, and Pornhub at the Italian. No, I'm just kidding.
God damn
it. Oh boy, this ain't that kind of stream.
It's gonna turn into it though. All right, so that means next up is TJ, the Rightful King.
Yes, sir. I've got a PSN, but that one was kind of hacked, so I'll have to update that sooner or later.
Oh.
But you can find me on Twitter at TJStars, double Z at the end. Just because people misspell that, I don't do that, but that should be my only open social media.
All right. So last but not least, Mr. N7 Biscuit. Where can we find you?
Well, you can find me on YouTube at Biscuit Rebellion. I don't really have any other social media, so.
All right, awesome. So I think overall this was a pretty good podcast. It was pretty informative. I think we covered a lot of interesting topics. So
yeah, the best topic was about Pornhub.
Yes, and, as it always is.
You gotta love free porn.
We should have a very in-depth discussion about that. Marin, when is the Pornhub spoiler cast?
My fuck!
Ren would hook us. Look, Ren would make us do cinematic experiences of the worst porn.
Hey, if you guys
I
want to
don't
watch
wanna know your
the,
fetish.
Can we watch the
he would-
Mario Brothers porn?
He
Oh.
would make us watch shit like that or the Forrest Gump one. Like, oh my god.
Forrest, well,
Forrest,
Dom,
yeah, there
Dom
is
is
a
Forrest Gump
delving
one.
deep. Dom is delving
Yeah,
deep
dude.
into that territory.
Dom went into the dark web to find
Hey,
out.
I've seen look. I've seen people review that shit for some reason, even though they generally are supposed to review movies, like normal movies.
Nostalgia critic.
Oh Jesus fuck! Just why?
Please tell me there's a porn version of The Room with Tommy Wiseau.
There is.
No.
There,
fuck.
yeah.
Hey, if
I know what I'm doing tonight.
If it exists, there's porn of it.
All right, Rule 34. That's right.
Yeah.
Dumbass.
All right, so I'm gonna end this podcast before it gets any worse. Talking about
Just gonna
Tommy
turn
Wiseau.
super left.
I am Tommy Wiseau.
Giraffe.
Yeah,
Tommy Wiseau.
you people have a good night. Fuck The Room. It's a terrible movie. See you later.
Google.